Chapter 1442. The violet fairies had lived for many years, but from their appearance, they always looked like a little girl of 11 or 12 years old. Their soft, silky hair naturally fell to their waists. They were very cute, just like the fairies in the legends. Lin Tian felt very warm as the violet fairy held his neck like this. Little Violet has also reached the Emperor realm. He scanned with his divine telekinesis and found that the violet fairy's cultivation was the same as the little Taichu's. She was now also at the early stage of the Emperor realm. I reached the Emperor realm in ancient times, but because of my body, it became very difficult to advance further. Fortunately, I found the purple evolution stone in the sealed dust ancient region. Together with other things, I solved the problem. Now my cultivation is very smooth. The violet fairy smiled. Lin Tian was slightly moved. Did the violet fairy's so-called body mean that she would lose all her cultivation and memory one day, every year? That kind of thing, will it also affect one's cultivation? He asked. The violet fairy obviously knew what Lin Tian was thinking and said, that is just a manifestation of the body's problem. In essence, it is a problem with one's origin. Therefore, cultivation after the Emperor realm becomes abnormally difficult. I see. Lin Tian understood. Until today, he knew the real reason why the violet fairy would lose all her cultivation one day every year. It turned out that there was a problem with her life origin. But fortunately, this problem had been solved. What are you guys talking about? A soft voice sounded. Wu Yi hugged the little Taichu and looked at Lin Tian and the violet fairy. In order not to worry Wu Yi, the violet fairy did not tell Wu Yi that she would lose all her cultivation and memory one day every year. Wu Yi had never known about this. It's nothing, little Yi. The violet fairy giggled. Wu Yi looked at the violet fairy and Lin Tian. Then her gaze fell on the violet fairy. I'm not small. Lin Tian couldn't help but want to laugh. Every time she saw the violet fairy giggling and calling Wu Yi little Yi, and then Wu Yi seriously saying, I'm not little anymore, she always felt a little happy. He looked at Wu Yi, paused, and asked, Wu Yi, what is your cultivation level now? When he was in the 10 directions heavens, he couldn't see through Wu Yi's cultivation base. Now that he had reached the sempiternal realm, he still couldn't see through Wu Yi's cultivation base. He felt that Wu Yi was like a bottomless black hole. Big brother. Before Wu Yi could say anything, the violet fairy spoke first. She grabbed Lin Tian's neck from behind and said, It's better if you don't know about this. You won't be able to take it. Then she smiled ambiguously and said, Well, what I mean is that you'll be under a lot of pressure. You know what I mean? Lin Tian blushed slightly when he saw the violet fairy's ambiguous expression. However, when he thought back to the violet fairy's words, his heart couldn't help but tremble. He knew very well that apart from Wu Yi, the violet fairy was probably the only person in the world who knew how strong Wu Yi was. Now that the violet fairy had spoken like this, he naturally understood the underlying meaning behind her words. It was likely that Wu Yi's cultivation base had reached an extremely frightening height, far surpassing his current level of cultivation. He looked at Wu Yi, his eyes flashing slightly. Little Yi, do you want some tea? The violet fairy asked again, looking at Wu Yi. Wu Yi nodded and invited Lin Tian inside. Not long after, they arrived at a small courtyard on the main peak. The courtyard was as simple as ever. There was a fence outside the courtyard, and a stone table stood in the middle of the courtyard. There were several wooden chairs around the table, and the atmosphere was simple and unadorned. Wu Yi brewed the tea skillfully and gently. Not long after, the rich aroma of tea wafted out from the courtyard. Smelling the tea's fragrance, Lin Tian couldn't help but feel his essence, energy, and spirit become many times smoother in an instant, and his entire being became ethereal. The fragrance of the tea makes the person even more beautiful. Isn't that right, big brother? The violet fairy looked at Lin Tian with an ambiguous and mischievous smile on her face. Lin Tian was speechless. This main peak was the misty peak of the Misty Mountain. It was the central peak, and the spiritual energy there was the densest. There were numerous extraordinary immortal trees, many of which were difficult to find in the outside world, and the ripples of Tao in the air were extremely strong. Lin Tian didn't leave immediately after arriving here. In the blink of an eye, he had stayed here for a month. During this month, Wu took him to many places in the Misty Mountain, and he became completely familiar with the Misty Mountain. After this, another month passed quickly. On this day, he bid farewell to Wu Yi and the Violet Fairy. Before leaving, he gave each of them an eternal weapon. As for Wu Yi, he could vaguely sense that Wu Yi was very powerful from the Violet Fairy's words, so he didn't give him any weapons or treasures. There was no need for that. However, since he gave the Violet Fairy an AI things, he naturally couldn't refuse to give Wu Yi something. Thus, he took out a piece of psychic ancient jade and carved a little Wu Yi jade figure according to Wu Yi. I feel like this is countless times more valuable than the eternal weapon you gave us, right, little AI? The Violet Fairy giggled. That's right. That's right. AI nodded repeatedly. Lin Tian blushed with sweat and was slightly embarrassed. He looked at Wu Yi and the other two and finally bade farewell. He stepped out of the main peak and instantly disappeared with the little Taichu. Soon, he left the range of the Misty Mountain and stepped on the void, leaving afterimages with each step. In the blink of an eye, he returned to the Immortal Court. After that, on the 7th day after he returned to the Immortal Court from the Misty Mountain, more than a dozen powerful auras rushed out one after another in the Immortal Court. Jiyu, Baiqiu, Shui Sushu, Linshi, Yinyer Wuxing Crocodile, Ling Yun, and the others all came out of seclusion on this day. The auras outside their bodies had become very condensed, and their cultivation of the 6th firmament of the heavenly venerable realm had all stabilized. Not bad, Lin Tian said with a smile, and then said, let's go out for a walk and go back to the lower heavens to take a look. Okay. The group nodded. In this group, except for Jiang Luluo, the others came from the lower heavens. Some of them had relatives in the lower heavens, some of them had masters in the lower heavens, some of them had tribes in the lower heavens, and some of them had cultivated in the sects in the lower heavens. Now that Lin Tian proposed to go back to the lower heavens to take a look, they naturally wouldn't be unwilling. Okay, then let's go, Lin Tian said with a smile. On this day, the group left the Immortal Court. They didn't use their powerful strength to tear through the heavens' barriers. Instead, they entered the lower heavens through the space-time portals that connected the various heavens. They walked between the heavens on foot, looking very leisurely. During this process, many cultivators naturally saw the group and were all moved. After all, except for Jiang Luluo, everyone in the group was a big shot in the Immortal Court. In the cultivation world of the 10 Directions heavens, it could be said that they were known by everyone. Especially when these cultivators saw Lin Tian in the group, their expressions were filled with shock and excitement. Lord Immortal Emperor. Greetings, Immortal Emperor. Greetings, Immortal Emperor. All the cultivators who saw the group bowed to Lin Tian with a respectful expression. There was no exception. Jiang Luluo was a little surprised. She looked at Lin Tian with a surprised expression. You have a lot of prestige in this area. Along the way, all the cultivators who saw them bowed to Lin Tian with a serious expression. She could see that this kind of seriousness was not because of fear of Lin Tian's strength, but because of a kind of reverence that came from the bottom of their hearts. Of course I have prestige, because Big Brother is the true hero of the 10 Directions heavens. Lin Shi said, appearing extremely proud. In the past, Lin Tian established the Immortal Court in the 9th heaven. He single-handedly suppressed the dark turmoil and led the people to defeat the ancient netherworld race. Then, he broke the seal of the 10th heaven and preached the Tao to the entire 10 Directions heavens. He passed down the essentials of cultivation after the Chaos realm to all the cultivators in the 10 Directions heavens. Everyone in the 10 Directions heavens respected him. This kind of respect came from the bottom of their hearts. Lin Tian patted Lin Shi's head and said with a smile, don't brag about your brother. It's the truth, Lin Shi said. Lin Tian smiled and didn't say anything more. He and the group walked through the space-time portals that connected the various heavens. Soon after, they walked through many heavens. They went to the barbarian race, Emergence Tao Gate, and by family to visit familiar old friends and elders. At the same time, he personally buried 150 divine veins for each of these inheritances to improve the foundation of the inheritance. He left 20 billion lingjing as cultivation resources and an immortal-grade soul treasure as a treasure weapon, which surprised and delighted the three great inheritances. These divine veins, lingjing, and soul treasures were naturally obtained from the top inheritances on the Xian ancient star. Kid, you have traveled the starry sky for 10 years. You have obtained too many treasures, right? You have shocked Uncle Crocodile. Whooshing Crocodile's eyes widened. After passing through the barbarian race, emergence Dao Gate, and by family, Lin Tianyi gave each inheritances 150 divine veins, an immortal-grade soul treasure, and 20 billion caddies of lingjing. This was simply too extravagant. Well, it's nothing. Lin Tian smiled. On the Xian ancient star, he obtained more than 1,000 divine veins. He buried hundreds of divine veins in the immortal court before, and he still had about 1,000 on him. He obtained nearly 300 billion caddies of lingjing on the Xian ancient star. As for soul treasures, he obtained a lot on the Xian ancient star, about 100 pieces. He traveled with the group, left the second heaven, entered the first heaven, and soon arrived at the Fanyang sect. Good boy, welcome back. The supreme elder of the Fanyang sect personally came out to welcome him, followed by the Burning Sun sect master and several elders of the Burning Sun sect. Supreme elder, sect master, elders. Lin Tianyi saluted with a respectful look. On this day, he and everyone temporarily stayed in the Fanyang sect. In the evening, he buried 300 divine veins for the Burning Sun sect as the foundation of cultivation, gave a peak soul treasure as a treasure weapon, and 50 billion caddies of lingjing as cultivation resources. He also gave a lot of Baodan and powerful secret techniques. In this regard, the supreme elder of the Burning Sun sect, the Burning Sun sect master, and others were naturally surprised and overjoyed. Good boy. I don't know what to say. Chapter 1443. Patting Lin Tian's shoulder, Tu Yao sighed with emotion. Over the years, Lin Tian would bring back piles of immortal treasures and ancient divine techniques to the Burning Sun sect every time he returned, causing the Burning Sun sect to change and become much stronger. This time, he even brought back hundreds of divine veins, tens of billions of lingjing, many Baodan immortal medicines, and powerful divine abilities and secret techniques. The accumulated value was simply unimaginable. Today, although the Burning Sun sect was located in the first heaven, in terms of heritage and heritage, it was definitely among the top forces in the entire 10 Directions heaven. Good boy. Good boy. The Supreme Elder of the Burning Sun sect said. Like Tu Yao, he really didn't know how to express his feelings at this moment. Lin Tian, on behalf of the past elders of the Burning Sun sect and the current Burning Sun sect, I thank you. The sect master of the Burning Sun sect was also excited and pleasantly surprised. Taking a deep breath, he thanked Lin Tian Dao and even bowed to Lin Tian directly. Lin Tian was moved and hurriedly moved aside. At the same time, he used his divine power to straighten the Burning Sun sect master's body. Sect master, please don't be like this. You are the sect master of the Burning Sun sect, master's junior brother, Lin Tian's senior martial uncle. How can Lin Tian accept such a big bow from you? I can't accept it, he said with a serious expression. Moreover, although Lin Tian is now independent, he will never forget that he is a member of the Burning Sun sect. Contributing to the sect is what Lin Tian should do. The master he respected the most was a disciple of the Burning Sun sect. In the past, it was he who led him to the Burning Sun sect to cultivate. For him, master was like a father. The supreme elder and sect master of the Burning Sun sect also treated him very well. Back then, for him, they did not hesitate to fight to the death with the strongest force in the first heaven, the 100 Refinement Square. He had always remembered this in his heart and would never forget it. To him, this place was like home. The Burning Sun sect leader nodded. He looked at Lin Tian with a face full of emotion. Then he smiled and said, "It seems that I was being unreasonable. The fact that my Burning Sun sect has you and your master is truly a blessing from the heavens. The Grand Elder of the Burning Sun sect said. He looked at Lin Tian with a face full of emotion. With a smile on his face, Lin Tian paused for a moment before remembering something. By the way, Great Elder, after I broke into the 10th heaven, I found some traces left behind by Master. Master left the Burning Sun sect more than 10 years ago and entered the 10th heaven with Master's wife, then left the 10th heaven and entered the starry sky. After saying that, he briefly explained to the Burning Sun sect's Great Elder and Burning Sun sect leader that the 10 Directions heaven was an ancient life star in the starry sky, as well as the vastness of the starry sky. Then he asked, Master didn't come back in these years? Listening to Lin Tian's words, the Burning Sun sect's Great Elder and the others were shocked. The 10 Directions heaven is an ancient life star in the starry sky. Beyond the 10 Directions heaven is the starry sky. There are many star fields in the starry sky, and there are more powerful life sources. This is simply... These people were shocked. This was the first time they heard of such a thing. Their eyes flickered, and it was only after 10 breaths of time that they calmed down. The Burning Sun sect leader said, Senior brother and senior sister haven't come back in these years. We all miss them very much. Lin Tian nodded, feeling a little regretful. He originally thought that after returning to the Burning Sun sect this time, he would be able to see an old drunkard. Next to him, Whooshing Crocodile's eyes were filled with surprise. Master Crocodile thought that Lin Tian was the first to reach the 10th heaven. I didn't expect that man had already broken through the barrier of the 10th heaven before Lin Tian. He sighed with emotion and said, What do you mean? As expected of that man, he always surprises this crocodile. Grandmaster is really amazing, Yi Tong said. So, Grandmaster is the first person to reach the 10th heaven. That's not it. Lin Tian shook his head and said, When I reached the 10th heaven due to some special reasons, I accidentally saw many scenes. Before me and Master, Wu Yi had already reached the 10th heaven, and before Wu Yi, the 9 Empyreans of the ancient era had also reached the 10th heaven. All of them rushed into the starry sky. As soon as these words came out, except for Jiang Luluo, who didn't know much about the 10th heaven, everyone was shocked. Miss Wu Yi has already reached the 10th heaven? This is really powerful, unfathomable. Whooshing Crocodile was surprised again, and then he thought of the other side that Lin Tian mentioned. The 9 Empyreans of the ancient era all reached the 10th heaven and rushed into the starry sky. This is the rumor in the 10th heaven wrong? The 9 of them didn't die. The 9 Empyreans whose names shook the 10 Directions heaven were all unrivaled under the heavens. The ancient scriptures they created were all marvelous and marvelous. All the cultivators in the 10 Directions heaven believed that the 9 of them had already fallen. Even though they were unrivaled under the heavens, they were still limited by the terrifying barrier of the 10th heaven, unable to ascend to the 10th heaven. In the end, they fell under the gears of time. However, the truth was actually not so. The 9 of them have already reached the 10th heaven. With the power of the 9 of them, when they reached the 10th heaven and rushed into the starry sky, they should have reached the eternal, indestructible realm. They definitely didn't die. Lin Tiandao. However, the 9 of them weren't the first ones to reach the 10th heaven. I don't know who the first person to reach the 10th heaven is, but he is very powerful, peerlessly powerful. The cultivation levels and essentials after the chaos realm that I passed down were engraved on a stone tablet in the 10th heaven by that person. The barrier of the 10th heaven is also difficult to break because of the aura left by that person. What? The reason why the barrier of the 10th heaven is so strong is because of the aura left by the first person to reach the 10th heaven. Everyone was shocked. Zhang Luo stared at Lin Tiandao and said, According to what you said, that person engraved a series of cultivation levels and essentials on the stone tablet in the 10th heaven. Doesn't that mean that person reached the divine emperor realm in the past? Lin Tian nodded and said, It should be like this. The divine emperor realm. I can't believe that this ancient life star of yours had an existence at that level. Zhang Luo was shocked. Ji Yu and the others were also shocked. It was hard to imagine that there was such a terrifying existence in the 10th heaven. For a moment, this place became silent. Everyone had a look of shock on their faces. Well, don't worry too much about this matter. After all, it has nothing to do with us. Lin Tiandao. Whooshing crocodile nodded. That's true. The group gradually calmed down and stopped thinking about it. After that, because of Lin Tian, the group stayed in the Burning Sun sect for 3 days. 3 days later, Lin Tian bid farewell to the Supreme Elder and the Burning Sun sect leader and the others before walking out of the Burning Sun sect. Let's take a trip to the Valley of the Harp, then return to the Northern Flame Country. Lin Tiandao. After leaving the Burning Sun sect, he went directly to the Valley of the Harp to visit Yu Wushuang, the Lord of the Valley of the Harp, leaving behind 150 divine veins and 20 billion jin of Lingjing. Then he returned to the Northern Flame Country to visit Old General Ji, Mu Qing, Sherdong, and the other elders. He gave them a lot of Baodan, precious herbs, Lingjing, and ancient scriptures. He also used his divine veins to transform their residence into the most suitable place for cultivation. At the same time, he also went to Siju Yi, Xian Yao, and the others, giving each of them valuable treasures. After that, he returned to the immortal court of the 9th heaven with the others. Half a month passed in the blink of an eye. On this day, he called Yi Tong over and explained the Tao of faith to her in detail. He planned to let Yi Tong spread the immortal court's Tao in the 10th heaven and shape the immortal court's faith. Believers can give birth to the power of faith. Not only can it be used for cultivation, but it can also temporarily increase one's combat power, and it can even be used as an offensive force. Yi Tong was surprised. This was the first time she came into contact with such a strange Tao. Yes, Lin Tiandao. He waved his hand, and a pagoda flew out from his knowledge sea. It was intertwined with purple divine light and lightning arcs, exuding a majestic aura. Yi Tong was shocked. Master, this pagoda, could it be? He was now already an Empyrean-level powerhouse, and he had already flipped through many ancient books that Lin Tian had brought back from the starry skies, so his knowledge was already extraordinary. At this time, he saw that this pagoda was extraordinary and recognized that the purple divine light was primordial origin Qi, and it was extremely pure primordial origin Qi. Such pure primordial origin Qi could only be found in primordial heavenly crystals. You're right. Lin Tian could see that Yi Tong had already guessed the material of the Immortal Emperor Pagoda. He said, "This is the Immortal Emperor Pagoda. It's an origin divine weapon that I forged using primordial heavenly crystals." Yi Tong was shocked again. Although she had already guessed it, she was still shocked to hear Lin Tian say it personally. "Congratulations, Master," she said. The Grand Mist Heavenly Crystal was the ultimate holy artifact recorded in the ancient books for forging weapons. Divine weapons forged with it could be reconstructed even if they were shattered. It was indestructible and could evolve endlessly. It was a treasure among treasures. Now, her master had obtained primordial heavenly crystals and used them to forge an extraordinary origin divine pagoda. As a disciple, she was naturally happy. Lin Tianin smiled, and then his expression became serious again. "Next, you will dispatch some immortal soldiers and immortal generals in the immortal court. With you as the leader, you will go to every corner of the 10 direction celestial regions to preach the Tao." With that, he flicked his finger. The immortal Emperor Pagoda swayed slightly and flew to Yi Tong. During the preaching period, this pagoda will be under your control. It will be a sacred object for preaching the Tao. Chapter 1444. The path of faith was a different path of cultivation. Although Lin Tian didn't mainly rely on the power of faith to cultivate, this kind of power was really extraordinary. He obtained the derivation of this power on earth, and it wouldn't affect the believers themselves. Therefore, he wanted to store this power, which could only be beneficial to him. Moreover, as the number of believers increased and the power of faith accumulated, he believed that this power would be of unimaginable use one day. At this time, the Immortal Emperor Pagoda was about an inch tall. It bobbed up and down in front of Yi Tong, intertwined with strands of primordial Qi. It was sacred and majestic, with a domineering aura. I understand, Master. I will do my best to preach the Tao in the future. Yi Tong's expression was solemn. Good go. Lin Tiandao. Yi Tong nodded seriously. She carefully put the immortal Emperor Pagoda into her sea of consciousness, then bowed and left. Looking at Yi Tong's back, Lin Tiantan smiled. He had taught Yi Tong everything about the path of faith in detail. He believed that with Yi Tong's ability, she would be able to handle it well. I'll accompany them alone, he muttered to himself. His eyes were gentle as he looked into the depths of the immortal court. Soon, he arrived at a large courtyard in the depths of the immortal court. This courtyard was a special place in the immortal court. The fragrance of flowers was very strong inside, and there were many immortal plants. It was where Lin Shi, Jiyu, and the other girls lived. He came here and called out Lin Shi, Jiyu, Sushu, Bai Qiu, and Shuiyi. The 6 of them were ready to go out for a walk. Okay, brother, I want to take a look in the starry sky. I want to take a closer look at the ancient planet of life in the 10-direction celestial domain and the other stars in the starry sky. Lin Shi said, a bit happy. No problem, Lin Tian said with a smile. He looked at Jiyu, Sushu, and the other girls. What about you guys? Is there anywhere in particular you want to go? Well, in this 9th heaven, there is a vast sealed dust ancient domain. You have fought there before, and the netherworld race has also invaded this world. Can you take us to that sealed dust ancient domain to take a look? Bai Qiu said. Jiyu nodded. I think so too. Well, I can go anywhere, Shuiyi said. Sushu echoed. Just like Shuiyi, Lin Tianwei smiled. All right, let's go to the sealed dust ancient realm first, then enter the 10th heaven, and then take a stroll in the starry space. Immediately, he brought Lin Shi, Jiyu, and the other girls away from the immortal court and headed towards the sealed dust ancient region before stepping into the starry skies. It was also on this day that Yi Tong dispatched a group of outstanding experts in the immortal court. She explained the path of faith that Lin Tian taught her to this group of outstanding immortal emperors, ordering them to leave the immortal court and start preaching the Tao in the 10 heavens. He himself also stepped out of the immortal court, roaming the world with the identity of the immortal court's divine child. Using the immortal Emperor Pagoda as a sacred treasure, he earnestly preached the Tao. Soon, he gathered devout believers in the mortal world. In fact, because of Lin Tian's actions in suppressing the chaos of darkness and unsealing the 10th heaven, countless cultivators revered Lin Tian. Therefore, in addition to the mortal world, many people in the cultivation world also became believers of the immortal court. Like all the mortal believers, they worshipped the immortal emperor. Everything went smoothly. In the blink of an eye, the immortal court's faith was like a flame that ignited in the wasteland. It rapidly spread to various regions of the ancient star. As time passed, the number of believers of the immortal court multiplied exponentially. Time passed bit by bit. The 10 heavens was very vast, and preaching the Tao wasn't a simple task. Yi Tong controlled the immortal Emperor Pagoda and poured her heart and soul into every corner of the 10 heavens. Not only did she manifest miracles among the mortals, but she also preached the Tao to the cultivators in the cultivation world. Gradually, the number of believers of the immortal court increased. At the same time, under Yi Tong's guidance, the other immortal court experts were also doing their best to preach the Tao. The flame of faith in the immortal court grew stronger and stronger. Lin Tian accompanied his younger sister, Lin Shi, Jiyu, and the others. They crossed the sealed dust ancient region and traveled through the starry skies, visiting ancient stars one after another. He brought the girls to cultivate in the starry skies. After traveling in the starry skies for half a year, they finally returned to the 10 heavens. The starry skies are so beautiful, Lin Shi said. Jiyu and the others nodded. Lin Tian took them to many places in the starry skies, showing them many stars. Each star was incomparably huge and colorful, very attractive. It's indeed very beautiful, but there are also many dangers, Lin Tian said with a smile. After traveling in the starry skies for 10 years, he had obtained many ancient books and read many of them. His understanding of the starry skies was very thorough. Although the starry skies were beautiful and fantastical, it contained many dangers. Among them, there were starry tides that could crush everything, space-time black holes that could devour everything, ferocious star beasts that even eternal experts couldn't defeat, and some strange islands and continents that floated in the starry skies. Those places were the most terrifying as they were full of unknowns and uncertainties. He took Lin Shi, Jiyu, Shui Yi, and the other girls from the vast starry skies and landed in the 10th heaven domain. They walked leisurely in the 10th heaven and then returned to the 9th heaven. Not long after, he made a trip to the Fey King Palace and gifted them a peak-tier immortal rank soul treasure, 150 divine veins, and 20 billion spirit crystals. He also helped the Fey King Palace strengthen their foundation and heritage. Everyone in the Fey King Palace was shocked and excited. A few of the Grand Elders thanked Lin Tian. "Seniors, you're welcome," Lin Tian said with a smile. The Violet Fairy was the master of the Fey King Palace, and several of the Supreme Elders of the Fey King Palace had helped him before. Whether it was for the sake of the Violet Fairy or the Supreme Elders of the Fey King Palace who had helped him before, he had to do something. As for Wu Yi's Misty Mountain, he didn't give away the divine veins and Ling Jing because it was really not necessary. The Misty Mountain was too special. The spiritual qi there was not inferior to the current immortal court. He bid farewell to the Supreme Elders of the Demon King Palace and took Lin Shi, Jiyu, and the other girls to other places in the 10th heaven domain. After that, they went to many places in the lower heavens domain. It was not until another month had passed that they returned to the immortal court. After that, he still spent most of his time with Lin Shi, Jiyu, and the other girls. He walked out of the immortal court with them several times and walked to many corners of the 10th heaven domain. He also personally guided them in their cultivation. In this way, time passed like the sand between one's fingers. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. On this day, he sent out an immortal-level divine sense to summon Yi Tong back because he was about to leave for the eternal ancient star field. He was going to send Jiang Luoluo home and go to the eternal ancient star field where Jiang Luoluo was to retrieve the sword soul fragment. He needed to bring the immortal Emperor Pagoda along. In the following days, he would refine and polish the origin divine pagoda. Not long after, Yi Tong received his message and returned to the immortal court in a very short time. "Master," Yi Tong returned and called out the immortal Emperor Pagoda. It floated in front of Lin Tian. At this time, the purple divine light outside the pagoda was even thicker. It was surrounded by a divine aura and carried an immortal divine charm. It was as if it had an additional divine power. It was extremely extraordinary. "You've worked hard." Lin Tian put the immortal Emperor Pagoda into his sea of consciousness and said to Yi Tong. The immortal Emperor Pagoda was a sacred object for preaching. It was a vessel that carried the power of faith. It would gradually change and become stronger as the power of faith fused with it. At this time, he scanned it with his divine sense and found that the immortal Emperor Pagoda had carried an incomparably dense amount of power of faith. It was like an ocean of faith. It was much more than the power of faith it carried from Earth in the past years. It was enough to imagine how hard Yi Tong had worked in the past 3 years. Of course, this didn't mean that the two Xian on Earth didn't work hard enough. It was because the two ancient stars were different. The ancient star of life in the 10th heaven domain was countless times bigger than Earth. Naturally, the number of living beings on it was also countless times more than on Earth. Therefore, the accumulation of power of faith was naturally much faster than on Earth. "It's not hard. This disciple has benefited a lot," Yi Tong said. During the 3 years of preaching, he had always been with the immortal Emperor Pagoda that was inscribed with Lin Tian's origin energy and origin Tao. He had been baptized and nurtured by the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Now, he had reached the 7th stage of the heavenly venerable realm. His essence, qi, and spirit were much stronger than 3 years ago. Then, a trace of doubt appeared in his eyes. He paused and said, "Well, Master, in the past 3 years, this disciple found something strange." The power of faith produced by the immortal Emperor Pagoda doesn't seem to belong to the 10th heaven domain. It seems to come from outside the 10th heaven domain. Master, do you have other believers outside the 10th heaven domain? Lin Tian listened to Yi Tong's words and nodded with a smile. Your guess is correct. It is indeed so. He said, back then, because of the cosmic tide, I was far away from the 10th heaven domain. I descended on another ancient star of life in the starry sky and learned about the Tao of faith there. Then I established the immortal court on that ancient star. My preaching of Tao began there. The preaching of Tao and the immortal court, they are under the charge of a little junior sister you have never met. She is the second disciple I accepted on that ancient star. Oh, a cute little fox. He continued, the power of faith you sense that doesn't belong to the 10th heaven domain should be from that ancient star. It is the result of your little junior sister's preaching of Tao. As he said this, he missed the little fox a little. That little fox was really lively and cute. Yi Tong understood and scratched his head. So there are believers outside the 10th heaven domain. I was wondering why the power of faith that doesn't belong to the 10th heaven domain would gather in the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Then, he became curious about another matter. But I actually have a junior sister now. Speaking of which, Master, from what you said, little junior sister is of the Yao clan? Is she powerful? Yes, she is of the Yao clan. She is also very powerful. In terms of cultivation talent and potential, she is not inferior to you in the slightest. Lin Tian smiled. Chapter 1445. Upon hearing Lin Tian's words, Yi Tong's eyes lit up. I wonder when I'll be able to see my junior sister. They shared the same master and lineage, so Yi Tong naturally wanted to meet this little junior sister of his that he had never met before. It won't take long. Lin Tian smiled. Yi Tong had worked very hard during the 3 years of preaching. He asked Yi Tong to take a rest first. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed since Yi Tong returned to the immortal court. On this day, Lin Tian was ready to depart for Tonghing Ancient Star. He wanted to tell his family and friends about this matter. Brother, we'll go with you, Lin Shi said. At the same time, Jiyu, Bai Qiu, Shui Yi, and Su Shu also said that they wanted to go with Lin Tian. The outside world is very dangerous. None of you should go. Cultivate in peace in the immortal court. Lin Tiandao said. Now, the cultivation foundation of the immortal court was very amazing. It was definitely one of the top places in the entire starry sky. It was definitely a blessed place for cultivation. Moreover, he had carved a special Tao pattern in the immortal palace at the center of the immortal court. A part of the power of faith of the immortal court in the 10 directions heavenly domain would gather in the immortal palace. It was enough for the group to cultivate freely. In this way, Lin Shi, Jiyu, and the others really didn't need to go to the starry sky. He hoped that they could cultivate and live in this absolutely safe place. This way, he could be absolutely assured. The girls hesitated. They really wanted to go with Lin Tian. However, after a pause, they nodded one after another. We'll listen to you, Jiyu said. They weren't stupid. They naturally knew that Lin Tian was worried about them and didn't want them to be in any danger. They just didn't want to be separated from Lin Tian because they cared about Lin Tian and wanted to travel with Lin Tianyi. However, if staying in the immortal court could let Lin Tian do all kinds of things without worry, they were willing to stay in the immortal court. Lin Tian nodded and smiled. He wasn't worried about the girls staying in the immortal court to cultivate. They would be absolutely safe if they stayed in the immortal court. We are also preparing to explore the starry skies, Bai Ziki said. Not bad. Ling Yin nodded and looked at Lin Tian. However, we won't travel with you. After all, your current cultivation level is much higher than ours. If we travel with you, you'll be able to solve everything on your own. We won't be able to get real training. That's not good. At the side, Fanning Xiong, Yang Qi, He Jiao, and the others nodded. They had decided to explore the starry sky, but they would not fight with Lin Tianyi. The reason was just as Ling Yun had said. You guys think too much. Lord Crocodile doesn't care about this. On the contrary, let Brat Lin solve everything alone, and then get rare treasures for Lord Crocodile to improve my cultivation. That's what I call comfortable. I should enjoy life like this. Whooshing Crocodile opened his mouth and said, Lord Crocodile will also go to the starry skies to explore and train with Brat Lin. Lin Tian wanted to cover his face. This guy actually said sit back and enjoy the fruits of others' work so naturally and proudly. He was really thick-skinned. Yeah, little Taichu called out in a childish voice and flew to Lin Tian's shoulder. Obviously, it wanted to go with them. After this disciple does a better job of preaching in the 10 Directions heavenly domain, I will also go to the starry skies to experience and strive to spread the faith of the immortal court throughout the starry skies. Yi Tong said, in the past 3 years, he has preached to the world and gained a lot of insights. He felt that this Tao can be extended infinitely. Whether it is for him, who preaches the Tao, or for his master, who is the center of the faith, it will be of great benefit. In the end, everything was decided. Lin Tian took Jiang Luoluo to the eternal ancient star field, and Whooshing Crocodile and Little Taichu would go with them. Bai Ziki, Yang Qi, Ling Yun, He Jiao, Fanning Xiong, and others would go to the starry skies on their own. Lin Shi Jiyu, Bai Qiu, Shui Yi, Su Shu, Yin Yu and others would stay in the immortal court to cultivate. Yi Tong would enter the starry skies later. So, on this day, Lin Tian and Lin Shi, Jiyu, and others bid farewell seriously, and then rushed into the 10th heaven with Jiang Luoluo, Whooshing Crocodile, and Little Taichu. At the same time, Bai Ziki, Yang Qi, Ling Yun, Fanning Xiong, He Jiao, and others also rushed into the starry skies. Everyone, take care of yourselves. In the starry skies, Lin Tian bid farewell to Bai Ziki and others. Bai Ziki and the others would split up and go to different places to fight, sharpen themselves, and improve themselves. At the same time, he imparted the saint refining art to Bai Ziki, Ling Yun, Fanning Xiong, and the others. This art was created by an emperor of the human race back then in the sealed dust ancient region. It could be used as a sacrifice for oneself. If it was used crudely, casually using other living beings as a sacrifice for oneself, this art would bring about endless harm. However, if it was used appropriately, using the corpses of enemies or living beings that had already died to refine it, the effects would be unparalleled. It could raise one's cultivation extremely quickly and strengthen oneself. Over the years, his cultivation base has improved by leaps and bounds time and time again. This saint refining treasure technique has played a crucial role. After passing the saint refining treasure technique to Bai Ziki and others, he was 100% sure that they would not use this saint refining treasure technique carelessly. Kid, I look forward to the day we meet again, Ling Yin said. Bai Ziki, Yang Qi, Fanning Xiong, and He Jiao said one after another. They bid farewell to Lin Tian, Whooshing Crocodile, Little Taichu, and Jiang Luoluo. Then, they took one last look at the ancient star of life in the 10 Directions heaven domain before flying off into the starry skies. Lin Tian looked at the group until they completely disappeared from his sight. Then, he led Whooshing Crocodile, Little Taichu, and Jiang Luoluo away from the ancient star of life in the 10 Directions heaven domain. Kid, Jiang Nua's ancient star of eternity. How far is it from here? How long will it take to get there? Whooshing Crocodile asked. It's very far from here. Based on our average speed, it will take about 5 years. Lin Tian on Dao. What? So long? Whooshing Crocodile stared at him. We're crossing the starry skies now. We're crossing the star field. Do you think we're moving within a star? Lin Tian squinted at him. The starry skies were boundless. The ancient star of eternity was located in the ancient star field. It was separated from the star field where the ancient star of life in the 10 Directions heaven domain was. It would naturally take a long time to get there from their current location. Whooshing Crocodile rolled his eyes. It would take 5 years to fly from here to the ancient star of life. Just thinking about it made him feel tired. Jiang Luoluo looked at Lin Tian and said with a smile, Well, thank you for sending me home. Now that she had reached the celestial venerable realm, she no longer needed Lin Tian's protection. She could cross the starry skies with her own strength. You're welcome. I have to go to that ancient star to get something anyway. Lin Tian on Dao. The starry skies were dim, and there was a faint silver light intertwining. The group traveled through the starry skies, leaving the ancient stars behind them. It would take about 5 years to reach the ancient star of life from here. Therefore, they would not simply travel through the starry skies. Instead, they would cultivate their ancient scriptures and ancient skills while traveling through the starry skies to improve themselves. In the blink of an eye, 3 years had passed. After traveling through the starry skies for 3 years and cultivating seriously for 3 years, their essence, chi, and spirit had improved greatly. At the same time, they were much closer to the ancient star of life. 2 more years. Whooshing Crocodile rolled his eyes. He was speechless after traveling through the starry skies for 3 years. Moreover, after that, to reach Tongheng Ancient Star, they would have to continue flying for another 2 years. You can just treat it as admiring the starry skies. Or, you can really immerse yourself in cultivation and treat it as a closed-door cultivation. That way, you won't feel bored. Lin Tian on Dao. Whooshing Crocodile curled his lips. You really know how to think. Of course, I have to think about it. Otherwise, I will only feel more and more tired. Lin Tian on Dao. As he spoke, he suddenly stopped talking. The expression on his face changed slightly. He looked forward and stopped in his tracks. Whooshing Crocodile, Little Taichu, and Jiang Luoluo were curious. They followed Lin Tian's gaze, and their expressions changed. They looked ahead and saw a gray continent floating in the starry skies. It was surrounded by fog and was drifting toward them like a warship. This is... Whooshing Crocodile was shocked. Lin Tian brought back many ancient books from the ancient Xian star area. Bai Ziki and the others had read them in detail. They knew a lot about the starry skies. They knew that there would be strange islands and continents floating in the starry skies. They were all very dangerous. Even the eternal realm, undying experts would most likely die if they went near these places. Avoid it. Lin Tian on Dao. In the face of these islands and continents floating in the starry skies like fog, he felt that avoiding them was the best choice. Immediately, the group moved horizontally away from the continent. They planned to move forward after the continent was far away. However, at this moment, the surrounding starry skies suddenly distorted. A majestic force suddenly surged from the continent. The group of people's expressions changed. As this majestic force surged, all of their bodies were restrained. It was as if an invisible hand had grabbed them and dragged their bodies quickly toward the continent. In just a moment, they were pulled close to the continent and then dragged into it. We were pulled in by force in just a moment. F***CK. Whooshing Crocodile cursed. Let's get out of here. Jiang Luoluo said. Such a strange continent floating in the starry skies was not a good place. They did not want to stay here. I'm afraid it won't be so easy to get out. Lin Tian said. As soon as he was forcibly dragged to this continent by that majestic force, he wanted to leave immediately. However, when he scanned the continent with his immortal divine thought, he found a problem. There was an invisible barrier at the edge of the continent. It was very strong, and even an immortal realm expert in the eternal realm would not be able to break it. He told them what he had found out. At the same time, he slashed out a golden sword essence toward the edge of the continent. The golden sword essence operated the heaven ascending sword manual for him. With his early stage immortal realm cultivation, he slashed out with all his strength. It was so powerful that it could kill an expert half a step to the eternal realm. However, the moment it approached the edge of the continent, a black bounded domain appeared. It melted the golden sword essence like ice meeting fire. What? Suddenly, Whooshing Crocodile and Jiang Luoluo's expressions changed. Chapter 1446. Whooshing Crocodile and Jiang Luoluo could feel how strong Lin Tian's golden sword essence was. It could almost kill anyone under the eternal realm. But now, when this fierce sword essence hit the edge of the strange continent, it caused a black bounded domain barrier to emerge and directly melted the fierce sword essence. The scene was a little scary. When we were pulled to this continent by that strange force, we didn't feel any bounded domain barrier. How come now? Whooshing crocodile frowned. It blocks the inside, but not the outside. Haven't we seen this kind of bounded domain barrier before? Lin Tian on Dao. There were many bounded domains between heaven and earth. Some prevented creatures from stepping in from the outside, but were not affected when they went out from the inside. Some prevented creatures from moving in from the outside, but were also prevented from moving in from the inside. Others only prevented creatures from moving out from the inside, but were not affected when they went in from the outside. Obviously, the bounded domain here only prevented creatures from moving out from the inside, but were not restricted when they went in from the outside. Then, what should we do now? How do we leave? Whooshing crocodile asked. Looking at Lin Tian's expression, they could not break this bounded domain with brute force. I don't know for the time being. Lin Tian said, if we just rely on brute force with our current cultivation, even if we join forces, we won't be able to break through it and leave. Now, we can only walk around the continent, observe and measure this continent, and find a way to break it. Originally, the divine chain around Jiang Luo's neck was very extraordinary. It was very amazing in breaking bounded domains. It had an extraordinary magical effect because it was mixed with the aura of the sword soul of the divine sword in his sea of consciousness. However, when he returned to the 10 directions heavenly domain from the Xian star, the aura of the sword soul in the divine chain disappeared. It seemed that it was absorbed by the divine sword in his sea of consciousness. So now, this divine chain could no longer be used to break the bounded domain here. Now, if they wanted to break the bounded domain barrier outside this continent, they could only choose to walk around the continent and observe every corner to find clues to break the bounded domain here. This might not be useful in the end because they could not find a way to break it. But if they just stayed here and did nothing, it was even more impossible to get out of here. Let's go to the continent. Whooshing crocodile tilted his head and looked at the continent. I always feel that this place is not very good. I can see it. Lin Tian on Dao. They had been pulled to this island by that strange force. At this time, they were at the edge of this continent. Looking at the continent from here, they could see strands of black fog intertwining. Broken stone tablets stood in many places, and the soil was dark red, as if it had been soaked in blood. There were many strange black and red plants growing on the ground, but most of them were withered. Leaves were scattered on the ground sparsely. The entire continent gave off a creepy feeling. Let's go. Lin Tian on Dao. Just standing at the edge of the continent would not solve any problems. Now, they had to go to the continent to explore. At the same time, he was not in a hurry to be pulled into the continent by the majestic force. After all, they had not encountered any danger yet. There was no need to be anxious. Moreover, being anxious would not help them solve the problem. Immediately, they walked towards the continent. This continent was very shocking. It was even bigger than some stars. Walking on it, the ground was a little moist. The withered leaves on the ground would occasionally sizzle, and a moldy smell spread out. Lin Tian stepped forward. Strands of dragon patterns spread out from the soles of his feet and sank into the ground to explore the terrain. Soon, an hour passed. They were very far away from the edge of the continent and gradually moved towards the center of the continent. Kid, did you see anything? Whooshing crocodile asked. Lin Tian shook his head. No. Aren't you an authority to look at the ground? It's been an hour, but you can't see anything? Correction, I'm not an authority to look at the ground. Those who look at the ground are called tomb seers. I'm cultivating the dragon burial scripture. I control the layout of the earth and the general trend of the world. They're on different levels. Aren't they the same? They're all related to the earth. Are you asking for a beating? Lin Tian wanted to beat it up. Whooshing crocodile rolled its eyes and looked around. Jiang Luoluo followed Lin Tian cautiously. Little Taichu was lying on Lin Tian's shoulder leisurely. In the blink of an eye, another hour passed. They walked further away. The amount of vegetation around them was obviously much less. The ground was more moist, and there was a strong medicinal fragrance. This medicinal fragrance, Lin Tian was moved, and a glimmer of light flashed across his eyes. At this time, The medicinal fragrance in the air was incomparably strong. It was even more amazing than the five-colored phoenix plant he obtained on the Zean ancient planet. Moreover, this medicinal fragrance was not just a single one. It was a mixture of dozens of different medicinal fragrances. Each of them was amazing. Whooshing Crocodile was shocked. This rundown place looks eerie. How can there be such an amazing medicinal fragrance? Beside him, Jiang Luoluo was also very surprised. Let's go and take a look. He called out to Whooshing Crocodile and Jiang Luoluo, and they went in the direction of the medicinal fragrance. He had read many ancient books. In this mixed medicinal fragrance, there were a few medicinal fragrances that were very similar to very precious natural treasures recorded in an ancient book. They were even more valuable than the five-colored phoenix plant he obtained on the Zean ancient planet. Soon, he led Whooshing Crocodile and Jiang Luoluo across tens of thousands of feet. At this time, the medicinal fragrance in the air became even stronger. A medicinal garden appeared in front of them. It was about a few thousand square meters. Inside, ancient and immortal herbs were laid out horizontally. They were intertwined with spots of light and emitted a strong medicinal fragrance. There's such a medicinal garden here? Jiang Luoluo was shocked. Flowing grass, a super divine medicine for refining one's body. Thousand spirit flower, refined by a heavenly venerable. Only 3 stalks are needed to raise one's cultivation by a small level. Immortal star root, born from starlight, is a rare treasure for Empyrean realm masters. It can strengthen one's divine soul, sea of consciousness, and origin. It can also raise one's cultivation. Also, Emperor's Snow, black glass grass, resurrection flower. Whooshing Crocodile's eyes widened. Lin Tian was also shocked. Not only was he shocked by the fact that there was such a medicinal garden on such an eerie continent, but he was also shocked by the various rare treasures in the medicinal garden. In this medicinal garden, he saw too many precious divine medicines. Among them, there was even the black and yellow treasure lotus, which could directly raise one's cultivation after being refined by an immortal realm master. All of them are harvested. Whooshing Crocodile howled. Seeing such a divine medicinal garden, he was excited and almost drooled. He rushed forward directly. Lin Tian's eyes were shining. He also stepped forward to the medicinal garden in front of him. But in the next moment, his heart suddenly shook as he noticed a withered corpse at the corner of the medicinal garden. The corpse's sunken eyes were staring fixedly at them, and they were faintly suffused with a gloomy green light. Instantly, it caused his back to go cold as a feeling of terror arose in his heart, and his scalp couldn't help but go numb. Come back! Chapter 1447. After being pulled back by Lin Tianyi, the Whooshing Crocodile was puzzled. Kid, what are you doing? Look over there. Lin Tiandao pointed at the dried corpse in the corner of the herb garden. The Whooshing Crocodile looked in the direction Lin Tian pointed and naturally saw the dried ancient corpse in an instant. At first glance, it didn't feel anything, but in the next moment, it felt a chill run down its spine and an inexplicable tremor rose in its heart. Is this a pure dried corpse, or has it mutated? Jiang Luoluo's heart also palpitated. She felt that this dried corpse was not ordinary. The dried corpse's eyes stared straight at them, and it felt as if they were being stared at by the soul-reaping emissaries of hell. No matter how I look at it, it doesn't look like a pure dried corpse. Lin Tiandao looked at the dried corpse, and his eyes narrowed slightly. How could a corpse that could make him feel a chill run down his spine and a sense of danger be a pure dried corpse? It had 100% turned into a great evil. Almost at the instant he finished speaking, a light sound came from the front. It sounded like the sound of a person waking up from a deep sleep. The dried corpse suddenly moved. Its sunken pupils were suffused with a green light. The corpse stood up in a deformed manner, and its head was tilted unnaturally. In an instant, an extremely dense aura of death spread out. It stared at Lin Tian and the others and directly pounced on them. The icy cold aura of death rolled like a vast ocean. The temperature in this place dropped by more than 100 degrees in an instant, causing the group of people to tremble and their internal organs to become cold. This old corpse is really not a pure dried corpse. The whooshing crocodile trembled violently. It was shocked by the aura of death. It was really too dense, as if the king of hell had come. That kind of aura was appalling. It was a little scared. Fortunately, Lin Tian pulled it back in time. Otherwise, it would have been in great trouble if the dried corpse suddenly pounced on it after rushing into the herb garden. Whoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air rang out. It only took an instant for the corpse to pounce over. Its speed was so fast that it was frightening. It let out a low roar, and its withered arms grabbed at several people at the same time. The Inchi of death rolled like a fog, covering all directions. A gust of sinister energy directly locked down the space. The whooshing crocodile trembled again. It was frightened by the ferocious aura of the withered corpse, and the scales on its body stood up. Zhang Luoluo's face turned pale. This withered corpse was too terrifying. It was as if a true immortal had come to kill them. Lin Tian raised his hand and punched the corpse's big hand. In the blink of an eye, his fist collided with the corpse's arm. He felt as if he had punched a piece of immortal divine iron. His fist immediately went numb, and the web between his thumb and forefinger was about to crack. The old corpse roared, and sharp black claws grew out of its withered hands. Its pair of sunken eyes glowed with green light. It was gloomy and frightening. It grabbed at several people like an emperor evil god. Lin Tian felt that this withered corpse was very scary before it moved. At this time, with a head-on collision, this feeling became even clearer. He waved the Chaos Emperor fist and performed it with his Immortal Realm cultivation base. He punched out one punch after another to meet the old corpse. Bang! 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 The void rang loudly. He punched dozens of times in a row. He felt a burst of pain in his fist, and then a little bit of blood floated out. The web between the thumb and forefinger of his right hand was shattered. Whooshing Crocodile was shocked. It knew what kind of physique Lin Tian had. It was the strongest king physique. With Lin Tian's current Immortal Realm cultivation base, the strength of his body was almost no worse than that of an early-stage Eternal Realm expert. But now his body was injured after colliding with the withered corpse in front of him. It was shocked. This old corpse was too terrifying. Roar! The old corpse roared, its pupils deep green. Its corpse was clearly extremely withered like firewood, as if it would break apart with a light touch. However, in reality, it was extremely terrifying. Its entire body was like a great sword of death, shattering expanse after expanse of the void. Lin Tian waved the Chaos Emperor fist and felt the horror of this old corpse more and more. The other party's corpse body was shockingly strong. Moreover, the death aura outside its body was very shocking. It was as if there was a sea of death wrapped around its body. He punched again and again. Then, black and white lotus petals flew out of his body, intertwining with the rich power of yin and yang. In the blink of an eye, they turned into yin and yang lotus swords. They made a sonorous sound and slashed at the withered corpse. This was the vision of his sea of consciousness, which had a strong restraining power against evil ghosts. At this time, he directly cast it out and combined it with his Chaos Emperor fist to bombard the withered corpse. The power of yin and yang kept falling on the withered corpse. However, this time, the yin and yang lotus sea, which had a strong restraining power against evil ghosts, was not very useful against the withered corpse in front of him. The effect was very weak, almost negligible. Is my cultivation base not enough? He muttered to himself. Roar! The withered corpse roared, and the death aura outside its body became even more terrifying. Lin Tian used the Chaos Emperor fist and the yin and yang lotus sea to bombard the withered corpse. After a pause, the yin and yang lotus sea and the fist force were put away at the same time. He then turned to the 5 heaven-shaking thunders technique. Boom! Thunder roared, and in an instant, silver lightning flashed. It was extremely overbearing, dyeing the space in this place silver for a short time. In an instant, a large amount of silver lightning fell on the chest of the withered corpse. This time, the withered corpse trembled and was sent flying. Wisps of green smoke rose from the corpse's body. A light flashed in Lin Tian's eyes. The 5 heaven-shaking thunders technique could greatly restrain this powerful, withered corpse. Lightning flashed in his eyes, and with a slight change of his mind, another large amount of silver lightning fell and enveloped the withered corpse. With a boom, the lightning flashed, and the withered corpse was sent flying again. More green smoke rose from the corpse, and a scream was heard. It was like 2 pieces of glass rubbing against each other, which was very ear-piercing. "It works!" Lin Tian's eyes lit up. The 5 heaven-shaking thunders technique was very effective against the withered corpse. It was much more effective than the yin and yang lotus. Then, he thought for a while and felt that it was very normal. He should have known that the 5 heaven-shaking thunders technique could greatly restrain the withered corpse. After all, there were clear records in the ancient books that evil spirits were most afraid of lightning. The 5 heaven-shaking thunders technique that he cultivated was not an ordinary lightning technique. It was deduced by a peerless existence from the heavenly tribulation. It was extremely overbearing and strong. It was very normal for it to be more effective against evil spirits than the yin and yang lotus. He activated the nirvana of the sun, and the cracked web between his thumb and forefinger was instantly repaired. Then, he took a step toward the withered corpse that was sent flying. At this moment, silver lightning surrounded his body. The electric arcs crackled as if a god of thunder had descended. Bang! He waved his hand, and a large amount of silver lightning flashed across the sky. Once again, the withered corpse was sent flying, and another ear-piercing scream was heard. It was unusually mournful. This kid has mastered the great way of thunder? No, it's not the great way of thunder. This kind of lightning. Whooshing Crocodile looked at the silver lightning outside Lin Tian's body and widened his eyes. Why do I feel that there is the aura of the heavenly tribulation? Looking at Lin Tian at this moment and the silver lightning surrounding Lin Tian's body, Whooshing Crocodile was shocked. It was not only because he felt the overbearing power of the silver lightning, but also because he could vaguely feel the aura of the heavenly tribulation in it. He obtained a lightning technique from the Xian ancient star. Only he can cultivate it. It is said that it was deduced from the heavenly tribulation. Jiang Luoluo said. Deduced from the heavenly tribulation? Whooshing Crocodile was shocked. Someone had deduced a lightning technique from the heavenly tribulation? Roar! The withered corpse roared, and the death chi surged. It was extremely horrified, and its sunken eyes shone with a gloomy light as it stared at Lin Tian. Lin Tian coldly snorted. He could clearly feel that the withered corpse was even more terrifying than before. However, he was not afraid. He circulated his 5 heaven-shaking lightning art even faster. Thunderous sounds rang out as dense silver lightning continuously struck down. Facing this tyrannical silver lightning, the withered corpse waved its claws. However, in the blink of an eye, it was struck again. Once again, it let out a miserable shriek. Numerous pitch-black lightning seals appeared on its sturdy corpse, while green smoke continuously rose from them. Lin Tian stepped forward, and the silver lightning struck down, restraining the withered corpse, and sent it flying again and again. This Whooshing Crocodile stared. The terrifying evil corpse was like a genuine immortal expert, but at this moment, it was suppressed by Lin Tian. This lightning technique is really terrifying. Jiang Luoluo gasped. Yeah, the little Taichu flew out from Lin Tian's shoulder when Lin Tian first fought against the withered corpse. At this moment, it looked ahead and saw Lin Tian firmly suppressing the tyrannical, withered corpse. It waved its little paws and cheered for Lin Tian. Boom! The thunder roared, and it was incomparably domineering. The silver lightning streaked across the sky, almost drowning the entire place. Lin Tian stepped forward, and like an invincible thunder god, he waved the 5 thunder sky-shaking art and sent the withered corpse flying again and again. The withered corpse let out a mournful cry like a wolf's howl. Its body was about to fall apart, and in its sunken eyes, there was a look of fear. Staring at Lin Tian, its corpse trembled violently, and then, like an ape, it jumped high and rushed into the distance, disappearing in the blink of an eye. Its speed was extremely fast. It escaped. The whooshing crocodile widened its eyes. Such a powerful, withered corpse with dense, energy and frightening ferocity. But at this moment, Lin Tian beat it into fleeing in fear. That lightning technique has an absolute restraining effect on it. It can't use its strength, and if it doesn't escape, it can only be destroyed, Jiang Luoluo said. Her eyesight was extraordinary. In front, Lin Tian's body was intertwined with silver lightning. Seeing the withered corpse disappear from his sight, he didn't chase after it. The opponent's escape didn't affect him much, so there was no need to chase after it. Kid, your lightning technique is too domineering. The whooshing crocodile flew over, its eyes full of shock. The lightning technique Lin Tian used just now was too powerful. Those silver lightning bolts were extremely domineering, and even that terrifying evil corpse fled in fear. It looked at Lin Tian and said, "This lightning technique, is it really deduced from heavenly tribulation?" Just now, it had heard Jiang Luoluo mention that Lin Tian's lightning technique was heavenly tribulation, but at this moment, it couldn't help but ask. This statement was really a bit frightening. In the history of cultivation, there was actually someone who could deduce a lightning technique from heavenly tribulation. Yes, Lin Tian nodded. When Jiang Luoluo mentioned that Lin Tian's lightning technique was deduced from heavenly tribulation, and when Lin Tian nodded in affirmation, the whooshing crocodile became even more shocked. Then, it thought of something else that Jiang Luoluo mentioned just now and asked, "This lightning technique, is it really only you can cultivate?" Lin Tian nodded and confirmed it again, which made the whooshing crocodile even more shocked. "Okay, don't be shocked. Let's pick the herbs first," he said. The whooshing crocodile was originally shocked by Lin Tian's lightning technique, but at this moment, when it heard Lin Tian mention the word herb picking, its energy was instantly lifted. It tilted its head and looked at the herb garden not far away, and its demonic eyes immediately lit up. Immediately, the group stepped forward and went directly to the herb garden. In the herb garden, the medicinal fragrance was rich, and various treasured herbs intertwined with a faint glow. They didn't say anything unnecessary and began to pick the treasured herbs intertwined with immortal light. Thousand Spirit Flower, Emperor's Snow Stalk, Black Glaze Grass. With them, Lord Crocodile and Zhang Yuhua can probably reach 8th stage Heavenly Master. The whooshing crocodile was excited. There are also a few immortal starflowers. After the little guy refines them, he can directly step into middle stage Emperor realm. There is also the black-yellow treasure lotus. Kid Lin, after you refine it, you should be able to directly step into middle stage immortal realm. Lin Tian took the black-yellow treasure lotus in his hand, and his eyes lit up. After all, the value of this black-yellow treasure lotus was very amazing. If he refined it, he could directly improve his cultivation by a small level from the current early stage immortal realm to middle stage immortal realm. Soon he, whooshing crocodile, and the others picked all the treasured herbs in the garden. Speaking of which, it's a bit strange. How can there be such a herb garden with so many rare treasures on such a ghastly continent floating in the starry sky? This herb garden seems to be man-made, right? Jiang Luoluo had a strange expression. Chapter 1448. Lin Tian was actually a little curious about the doubts raised by Jiang Luoluo. This medicinal garden occupied an area of thousands of square meters, and there were many rare and precious medicines growing. It did seem to be man-made. However, this was a little strange. How could there be such a man-made medicinal garden on such a gloomy and strange continent? Moreover, there were so many precious medicines growing. He scanned the surroundings, trying to find some clues, but he couldn't find anything. In the end, he could only shake his head and not think about it. Ignore it. Let's find a more hidden place and refine these precious medicines first, he said. Hearing his words, Whooshing Crocodile nodded repeatedly. Grandpa Crocodile thinks so too. At this time, they had obtained such a group of rare and precious medicines in this place. As long as they refined them, their cultivation would increase greatly. At this moment, it naturally couldn't wait to refine these precious medicines and advance to a higher level. Let's go. Lin Tian Dao. He scanned the surroundings and left with little Taichu, Whooshing Crocodile, and Jiang Luoluo. They came to an empty place. You guys refine the precious medicines in your hands first. I'll protect you guys. When you're done, you can protect me, he said. At the same time, soul light intertwined in his right hand. He set up more than 10 sealing formations in this place in succession. They completely covered the space within a radius of 1,000 feet to conceal their auras. Okay, let's do that, Whooshing Crocodile said. Lin Tian immediately protected Whooshing Crocodile, Jiang Luoluo, and Little Taichu. Whooshing Crocodile and Jiang Luoluo refined the 1,000-spirit flower, Emperor Snow Plant, and Xianli grass that could increase the cultivation of heavenly venerables from the medicinal garden. Little Taichu refined the immortal star flower that could increase the cultivation of emperor-level powerhouses. For a time, there was a very strong light intertwining outside their bodies. Their essence, qi, and spirit increased greatly. Just like that, half a month passed in the blink of an eye. Half a month later, Little Taichu, Whooshing Crocodile, and Jiang Luoluo had finished refining their respective precious medicines. Whooshing Crocodile and Jiang Luoluo had reached level 8 Heavenly Venerable Realm, and Little Taichu had reached Mid-Emperor Realm. Compared to half a month ago, their blood and qi had increased by many times. Awesome! Whooshing Crocodile could not help but howl. In just half a month, it had advanced from a 6th-stage Heavenly Venerate to an 8th-stage Heavenly Venerate. It's hard to imagine that I've gone from the airborne realm to the 8th level of Celestial Lord in just a few years. It's like a dream. Jiang Luoluo clenched her fists, her beautiful eyes sparkling. After that, she happily thanked Lin Tiandao, because the reason why her cultivation was able to reach this level in such a short period of time was all because of Lin Tian's various treasures. If it wasn't for Lin Tian, she definitely wouldn't have been able to achieve this in such a short period of time. You're welcome. We're friends. This is nothing. Lin Tian smiled and said, But didn't your clan have very strict requirements? Now that you've piled up treasures to reach level 8 Heavenly Venerate, won't you get scolded when you go back? These treasures were given to me by you. I didn't rely on the resources of my clan, so they can't do anything about it, Jiang Luoluo said. Lin Tiandao said, Well, that's true. As he said that, he looked at Little Taichu and Whooshing Crocodile. Now, it's your turn to protect me. Keep an eye on the surroundings. I'll refine the black gold lotus. Little Taichu, Whooshing Crocodile, and Jiang Luoluo had all finished refining their respective treasures. At this time, he was ready to refine and absorb the black gold lotus. Don't worry, Whooshing Crocodile said. Lin Tian nodded and immediately sat down cross-legged, taking out the black gold lotus and starting to refine it. Buzz! He ran the Heart Sutra of Sun and absorbed the spiritual qi and essence qi in the black gold lotus. His essence, qi, spirit, and cultivation improved rapidly. Very quickly, a full month had passed, and he had finally finished refining the black-yellow treasured lotus. A majestic force rippled out from his body, blowing away all the dried leaves that were scattered on the ground around him. Middle stage Immortal Realm. He opened his eyes. 2 rays of light flashed in his eyes. After refining the black gold lotus in a month, his cultivation had advanced from early stage Immortal Realm to middle stage Immortal Realm. His essence, qi, and spirit had improved greatly. His blood qi, physique, divine soul, and principle were many times stronger than they were a month ago. Compared to a month ago, he could clearly feel that his combat strength had improved a lot. He took a deep breath and then stood up. Let's go, he said, calling Little Taichu, Whooshing Crocodile, and Jiang Luoluo to leave and find a way to leave this strange continent. This continent was huge. He used the dragon marks to explore the surroundings. Soon, He led Jiang Luoluo and the others far away. The soil was still damp, and there were withered leaves everywhere on the ground. Not long after, another medicinal garden suddenly appeared in front of them. It was many times larger than the previous medicinal garden, and there were also many precious medicines growing inside, but they had all withered. The few of them walked closer and sized up the newly discovered stalks of withered treasured medicines in the medicinal garden, and all of them revealed shocked expressions. Geocentric chestnut fruit, a divine herb to strengthen the origin. It is a treasure even for eternal realm experts. Myriad purple treasure ginseng can condense and strengthen the genuine immortal chi. Red sky 9 phoenix flower can strengthen the Tao and strengthen the soul. It is very useful for golden immortals. Poria 9 senses grass can broaden the sea of consciousness. It is effective even for Xian immortals. Wuxing crocodile was shocked. There are so many precious treasures here. The worst of the precious herbs in this herb garden were more precious than the black and yellow treasure lotus in the previous herb garden. Any one of them was enough to shock the world. It was very shocked. While it was shocked, it could not help but feel a little annoyed. All the precious herbs had withered, and their essence chi was gone. They were completely useless. Jiang Luoluo was also shocked. Even someone as powerful as Lin Tian, who had experienced all sorts of things since he started cultivating and had an extremely firm mental state, could not help but be stunned at this moment. The various treasures in this medicinal garden were just too precious, and their value was shocking. In this place, the medicinal garden was more than 10,000 square meters. As the group walked around, they saw one stalk of rare and precious medicine after another. Each stalk had extraordinary value, but they were all withered, and many had even rotted. What a sin! Wuxing crocodile howled. It found so many precious herbs, but they had all withered and lost their value. It felt very uncomfortable. It wasn't just him. Even Lin Tian felt a bit of heartache. The value of these precious medicines was truly too shocking. He estimated that if all of these precious medicines were in good condition and refined, he would be able to directly charge into the true immortal realm. "Forget it, let's go," he said. This herb garden was very shocking. However, the precious herbs in it were all spoiled. There was no need for them to stay here. He let a few people out of here and continued to explore this continent with the dragon pattern. They moved towards the center of the continent and found several more herb gardens one after another. Each one was bigger than the previous one. The precious herbs in it were more amazing than the previous one. In one of the herb gardens that covered an area of nearly 100,000 square meters, there was an exquisite myriad immortals grass. It was a super treasure even for a celestial immortal expert. After refining it, it could directly increase one's cultivation level in the celestial immortal realm. However, this exquisite myriad immortals grass had withered and decayed, and all kinds of precious herbs in the other herb gardens had also withered. None of them could be used. The essence contained in them had long been lost, and they were no different from withered grass. #yen% hashtag. Wuxing crocodile's face was filled with grief and indignation. These precious herbs together were enough to support their cultivation to the celestial immortal realm, but now they were all withered. Stop howling. No matter how loud you howl, they won't come back to life. Lin Tian glanced at it and said, "Lord Crocodile is unwilling." Such a big pile of divine herbs turned into withered grass. It's useless even if you're unwilling. Lin Tian Dao. Beside him, Jiang Luoluo said, "These medicinal gardens clearly look like they were created by someone. The value of the precious medicines growing in them is shocking. Could it be that there was once an extremely shocking inheritance of a great power on this continent?" Lin Tian frowned and said, "The possibility is very high. All the major forces and sects in the world would have their own herb gardens, which were specially used to cultivate all kinds of precious medicines for the sections. The immortal court he established was one of them. Now, there were 9 herb gardens in the immortal court, in which there were all kinds of precious medicines. There were specific experts of the immortal court who took care of them. Of course, The various precious herbs in the immortal quartz herb gardens were incomparable to the precious herbs in the herb gardens in this place. The difference between the two was huge. He inferred that Jiang Lulua's guess was indeed very likely. Perhaps there was once a great force on this continent, and the herb gardens that they found on this continent belonged to that great force. But if that's the case, then how powerful was the great force inheritance that was established on this continent? Based on the fact that the herb garden on this continent had the exquisite myriad immortals grass that could directly increase the cultivation base of a heaven immortal expert, there should be at least a heaven immortal expert guarding the inheritance. How did such a powerful inheritance end up like this? Looking at the scene in front of us, that inheritance is clearly destroyed. Whooshing Crocodile said, "The annoyance caused by the withering of many precious herbs gradually subsided at this time." "That I don't know." Lin Tian shook his head. He thought for a while and could only guess the situation. Then he continued to explore this strange continent with the dragon marks. After that, 3 hours passed quickly. They walked on foot and gradually approached the center of this continent. At this time, a piece of dilapidated ancient palace suddenly appeared in front of them. They were all intertwined with the aura of time. It was unknown how many years it had existed. It could be measured with a unit of 100,000 years at least. It looks like the ruins of a great power. Whooshing Crocodile was visibly moved, and his gaze descended onto the piece of dilapidated ancient palace. Could it be that a formidable inheritance really existed on this continent? "I told you, the possibility is extremely high." Lin Tiandao. Chapter 1449. In the middle of the dilapidated palaces, there was a large hall that was several hundred feet tall. It was unknown what material it was made of, but it was covered with cracks, and the aura of time was very strong. Lin Tian looked at this large hall. An ray of light flashed across his eyes. In this large hall, he sensed an aura that was very similar to the barrier at the edge of the continent. "Let's go to the large hall in the center," he called out to Whooshing Crocodile and Jiang Luoluo. Whooshing Crocodile's expression changed slightly. "Did you find something?" Lin Tian nodded and said, "There is an aura that is very similar to the barrier at the edge of the continent. There should be clues to break through the barrier." Whooshing Crocodile and the others heard this, and their eyes lit up. "Let's go in and take a look," Whooshing Crocodile said. Immediately, the few of them walked forward and quickly arrived in front of the large hall in the center. When they came close to the large hall, the temperature in the air became even colder, and there was a stifling aura intertwined in the surroundings. The few of them could see that this large hall was not a good place, but they did not hesitate and directly stepped into it. After all, they were not weak, so naturally, they were bold. Most importantly, there were clues leading to their departure from this continent in this grand hall. They had to enter and search for it. The space in the large hall was a little dim, but it was incomparably vast. It did not feel like a simple large hall at all, but more like a small world. The inside of the hall extended in all directions, leading to various positions in the large hall. An aura similar to the barrier at the edge of the continent came from the depths of this large hall, like water ripples. Lin Tian called out to Little Taichu, Whooshing Crocodile, and Jiang Luluo, and directly walked into the depths. "WA! WA! WA!" The space in the hall was very quiet. As they walked, the sound of their footsteps echoed in this space. Lin Tian walked at the very front. His pace was neither fast nor slow as he followed a fixed path towards the depths of the palace. Soon, they had walked far away. Many cracks gradually appeared on the walls of the palace. There were many knife marks and sword marks in many corners. Gradually, they found some bone dust and weapon fragments on the ground. It was obvious that a fierce battle had taken place here. Most importantly, the bone dust and weapon fragments contained very weak immortal Tao laws. The people who fought here back then were at least true immortals. Whooshing Crocodile was a little surprised. Lin Tian was also moved, but he didn't pay too much attention to it, and continued to head deeper into the hall. Not long after, he brought Little Taichu, Whooshing Crocodile, and Jiang Luluo along with him. They followed the aura similar to the barrier at the edge of the continent and arrived in front of a huge stone room. Looking around, the stone door of the stone room was open. The space inside was very large, and there was blood everywhere. No one knew how long it had been there, but it didn't dry up and was full of the smell of blood. In the center of the stone room, an old man in a black robe had his chest pierced through by a cracked spear. His body was shriveled, and there was no trace of life. The other end of the spear was held in the hand of a human-shaped skeleton. It looked like the human-shaped skeleton had burned all of its flesh and blood at the last moment of its life to pierce the spear into the body of the black-robed old man. These two people fought to the death here, and in the end, they died together. Several people were moved. The scene in front of them was a little horrifying. Lin Tian's gaze moved and fell on the other hand of the human-shaped skeleton holding the spear. It held a blue, ancient token in its hand. The aura similar to the barrier at the edge of the continent came from this blue, ancient token. At the same time, Wuxing Crocodile, Little Taichu, and Jiang Luluo naturally discovered this ancient token. They sensed that the ancient token emitted the same aura as the barrier at the edge of the continent, and their eyes lit up. If we get it, we can definitely pass through the barrier at the edge of the continent. Wuxing Crocodile's eyes lit up. Without hesitation, several people, led by Lin Tian, directly entered the stone room and headed for the ancient token. In the stone room, the human-shaped skeleton held the spear, and the black-robed old man's chest had been pierced through. Their bodies emitted a very frightening aura. When several people entered the stone room, they were immediately oppressed by this aura, and their bones hurt. What realm were these two people in when they were alive? The aura naturally emitted by their corpses is actually so terrifying. Also, the blood in this stone room should belong to these two people. After so many years, it hasn't dried up yet, and there's a very strong smell of blood floating in the air. This is simply... Wuxing Crocodile's heart palpitated. Lin Tian was also shocked, but at this time, he didn't say anything. He slowly walked forward in the stone room, and soon, together with Wuxing Crocodile, Little Taichu, and Jiang Luluo, came to the black-robed old man and the human-shaped skeleton at the center of the stone room. When they came here, the pressure in the air was even greater. It was as if there was a starry sky here, and it was going to crush them directly. Lin Tian looked at the human-shaped skeleton holding the battle spear. He carefully took the blue, ancient badge from the skeleton's other hand. This ancient token was only the size of a palm, and there was an ancient Yuan character engraved in the center. He didn't know what kind of metal it was forged from, but it was abnormally heavy. Holding it, Lin Tian felt as if he was dragging a 10,000-foot-tall mountain. I got it! Wuxing Crocodile's eyes flashed. Looking at the ancient token at close range, it felt the aura similar to the barrier at the edge of the continent become stronger. It believed that with this ancient token, they would be able to pass through the barrier and leave this place. Then, it looked at the spear that pierced through the black-robed old man's body and said to Lin Tiandao, "Boy, this is also a good thing. It's a great treasure. Pull it out and take it away." Lin Tian naturally felt that this spear was extraordinary. Although it was covered in cracks, as if it would break at the slightest touch, it still exuded a very fierce, murderous aura. It was much more tyrannical than the Xian Luo immortal sword he obtained from the Xian Star. It seemed as if it could really pierce through all things in the world. It was difficult for him to estimate its level in a short time. He didn't hesitate and raised his hand to grab the spear, wanting to take it away. Wong! Suddenly, a strange sound rang out, as if billions of birds were flapping their wings. The aura was terrifying. A divine sense suddenly rushed out from the black-robed old man's body, shooting straight towards Lin Tian's head. It also enveloped the Wuxing Crocodile, Jiang Luluo, and the Little Taichu behind him. Lin Tian's expression changed. He immediately retreated and propped up the immortal Emperor Pagoda to protect himself. At the same time, it also enveloped the Wuxing Crocodile, the Little Taichu, and Jiang Luoluo. Clang! A violent sound rang out. The divine sense landed on the immortal Emperor Pagoda, causing it to shake violently. It was as if it had been hit by billions of pounds of force. Lin Tian and the others were sent flying along with the immortal Emperor Pagoda. They slammed into the stone wall of the stone room. Their blood and chi surged, and they all almost vomited blood. Fortunately, the immortal Emperor Pagoda was sturdy enough. It was made from the primordial heavenly crystal, the ultimate weapon-forging artifact. Otherwise, the immortal Emperor Pagoda would have been shattered by that strand of spiritual sense, and Lin Tian and the others would have suffered. In front of them, the black-robed old man who had been pierced by the spear had shriveled up beyond recognition. He was like a mummy. At this time, he opened his eyes. His eyes were frighteningly deep, and there was a faint aura of life intertwined. At the same time, the aura that naturally intertwined around his body became even more terrifying. He's alive? Whooshing Crocodile's heart palpitated. Lin Tian's expression also changed. When they entered this stone room, they did not sense any aura of life at all. They thought that the black-robed old man was dead, just like the human-shaped skeleton with the spear. They did not expect that the black-robed old man who had been pierced by the spear was still alive. He was pierced by the spear and was in a state of suspended animation. Because we approached him with our aura, he woke up. He was moved. The black-robed old man opened his eyes. His eyes were deep and cold. He stared at the blue ancient token in Lin Tian's right hand. Then, he looked at the immortal Emperor Pagoda that Lin Tian had summoned. His deep eyes became even more frightening. Another strand of consciousness flew out. This time, it was aimed at Lin Tian. Obviously, he wanted to seize the ancient token in Lin Tian's hand and the immortal Emperor Pagoda that Lin Tian had summoned. Facing this strand of consciousness, Lin Tianji felt a chill run down his spine. He could clearly feel the terror of this strand of consciousness. He immediately activated the immortal Emperor Pagoda with the Sun Heart Sutra. The immortal Emperor Pagoda glowed with purple light, firmly protecting him and Whooshing Crocodile. In the blink of an eye, the black-robed old man's strand of consciousness slammed into the immortal Emperor Pagoda. Lin Tian and the others were once again sent flying by the immortal Emperor Pagoda. They were all in pain. Wong! The space buzzed as the third strand of consciousness surged over. It was still aimed at Lin Tian, and its speed was extremely fast. In an instant, it was right in front of Lin Tian. It was as if a vast sea of deities was pressing down on him. Lin Tian could not avoid it. He immediately activated the Great Tao Reincarnation Diagram and met it together with the immortal Emperor Pagoda forged from primordial heavenly crystals. Boom! The stone chamber rumbled and exploded with blazing rays of light. With a bang, Lin Tian was once again sent flying along with the pagoda. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood essence. The little Taichu, Whooshing Crocodile, and Jiang Luoluo, who were protected by him within the pagoda, were also sent flying along with him. Their blood essence was in turmoil. What level of cultivation is this old fart at? It looks like he already has 1 foot in the coffin. His spiritual essence and divine energy should not even be at 1/10,000th of his peak. Yet he is still so terrifying. Whooshing Crocodile's heart palpitated. Lin Tian looked at the black-robed old man with a serious expression. At this moment, he could naturally see how terrifying this black-robed old man was. "Let's go," he said in a low voice. He wrapped the little Taichu, Whooshing Crocodile, and Jiang Luoluo with the immortal Emperor Pagoda and stepped out of the stone chamber. This black-robed old man was unfathomable. Even if they combined forces, they would not be a match for him. They did not have the leisure to retrieve the battle spear. At this moment, the wisest choice was to take advantage of the fact that the other party had just awakened and his battle strength was still unstable to leave quickly. Otherwise, if they continued to linger in this place, they might all die here. Chapter 1450. Lin Tian was very fast. With little Taichu, Whooshing Crocodile, and Jiang Luoluo, he rushed out of the stone room like a flash of lightning. At the center of the stone room, the black-robed old man's body was shriveled, and his pupils were slightly sunken. However, his gaze was deep and cold. Another wisp of divine sense spread out, and as it fell on Lin Tian, it directly sealed the surrounding space. Lin Tian's eyes were intertwined with wisps of light. With a thought, the Xian Luo celestial sword, a true immortal weapon, rushed out of his body. He used it to display a great sword principle theurgy from the High Heaven Sword scripture, and in an instant he slashed out a dazzling golden sword essence. Clang! The sound of the sword was ear-piercing. The High Heaven Sword essence, which was displayed by a true immortal weapon, was astonishingly powerful. In the blink of an eye, it collided with the black-robed old man's divine sense. A blazing light burst out in the stone room, and a hurricane swept out. Lin Tian was sent flying. However, as he used a true immortal weapon to counter the opponent's divine sense, and at the same time, he used the immortal Emperor Pagoda to protect himself. This time, he did not suffer a great shock. His essence, qi, and spirit were very calm, and his situation was much better than before. He used the immortal Emperor Pagoda to protect himself, and wrapped Wuxing Crocodile and the others. He used the recoil force from the collision with the opponent's divine sense to move. He activated the 5 heaven-shaking thunders incantation on the spot. This peerless thunder technique, coupled with the Xian Luo celestial sword scripture and the High Heaven Sword scripture, slashed open a crack in the space that was sealed by the opponent. He wrapped Wuxing Crocodile and the others and rushed out of the stone room. "Stay!" the black-robed old man said in a hoarse and cold voice. 3 wisps of divine sense swept out in succession, drowning Lin Tian. "No need to send me off." Lin Tian on Dao. The 5 heaven-shaking thunders incantation was activated. At this moment, he also displayed the 9th level of the yin and yang steps. His speed instantly soared, and in an instant he crossed an endless distance, dodging the black-robed old man's 3 wisps of divine sense. Then in the next moment he left the stone room far behind him. Inside the stone room, the black-robed old man's eyes were deep and cold. He stared coldly at Lin Tian as he left, but he didn't chase after him. He didn't move at all. At the spot where the battle spear had pierced through his chest, the blood had already stopped flowing. However, at this moment, new blood was spreading out. "It's all mine!" A cold voice reverberated through the stone chamber. Lin Tian used the immortal Emperor Pagoda to protect himself and Wuxing Crocodile as they left the stone chamber. At this point, they were already very far away. "That old bastard didn't chase after us?" Wuxing Crocodile stared behind him. "It seems that he's being suppressed by that battle spear and can't move for the time being. The range of his soul consciousness seems to be limited." Zhang Luoluo said. "Luoluo is right." Lin Tiandao. When they were in the stone room, the black-robed old man had attacked him several times with his soul consciousness as a weapon. He hadn't moved at all. At that time, Lin Tiandao had sensed that the old man's essence, qi, and spirit were weak and unstable. He was temporarily restrained by the battle spear that had pierced his body. Moreover, he couldn't use much of his soul consciousness, and the range of his coverage was very limited. As he spoke, he didn't stop walking. He used the 5 heaven-shaking thunders incantation and the 9th tier of the yin and yang steps to quickly rush out of the main hall. Looking from the outside, the main hall was covered in cracks. The surrounding air was especially stifling. The terrifying black-robed old man didn't chase after them. He was completely left in the stone room of the main hall. "He didn't chase after us. It seems that he's being suppressed by that battle spear for the time being." Wuxing Crocodile stared into the main hall. His heart palpitated, and he couldn't help but tremble. That old bastard is really terrifying. He's so badly injured, and his life force is so weak that it's almost negligible, but he's still so terrifying. If he's at his peak, he could probably even destroy the stars in the starry sky. Terrifying. Zhang Luoluo swallowed her saliva. Even the emperor-level little Taichu shrunk its neck. Lin Tian could naturally imagine how terrifying the black-robed old man was at his peak. However, he didn't care at this time. After all, they all walked out of the stone room unscathed. "Let's go." he said, and put away the immortal Emperor Pagoda and Xian Luo immortal sword at the same time. Then, he left the main hall and walked towards the edge of the continent. Now that he had obtained the ancient token that had the same aura as the boundary barrier at the edge of the continent, he felt that he could walk out with this ancient token. Let's go, let's go, Whooshing Crocodile replied. It wasn't surprised that Lin Tian took out the Xian Luo immortal sword and the immortal Emperor Pagoda made of primordial heavenly crystals. This was because it knew about the existence of the immortal Emperor Pagoda and Xian Luo immortal sword when it was still in the immortal court 3 years ago. Little Taichu was the same. It wasn't surprised at all. As for Jiang Luoluo, she had seen Lin Tian take out the immortal Emperor Pagoda before Little Taichu and Whooshing Crocodile. She knew where the Xian Luo immortal sword came from. Therefore, she naturally wouldn't be surprised that Lin Tian took out the immortal Emperor Pagoda and Xian Luo immortal sword. The few of them moved very quickly. It didn't take long for them to reach the edge of the continent. Looking out from the edge, they could see beautiful stars. Lin Tian took out the blue ancient token that he had obtained from the stone room. He took a deep breath and held the ancient token in his right hand. Then he stretched his arm out towards the edge of the continent. In the blink of an eye, his arm touched the boundary barrier that appeared at the edge of the continent. Chi! The boundary barrier that his right hand touched melted on the spot, revealing a huge gap. His right hand directly passed through it. It really works? The five-element crocodile's eyes lit up. Although he had guessed that holding this ancient token would definitely allow him to pass through the barrier at the periphery of the continent, when he saw Lin Tian holding this ancient token and his right hand passing through the barrier at the edge of the continent, he could not help but be pleasantly surprised. Jiang Luo's eyes also lit up. She said, "Then, let's leave this place quickly. If that black-robed old monster suddenly breaks free from the battle spear and chases after us, we'll all be finished." Lin Tian nodded. Holding the blue ancient token, he enveloped Little Taichu, Whooshing Crocodile, and Jiang Luoluo. Then, the ancient token shattered the boundary barrier around the continent like ice. He took them and stepped out of the continent in the blink of an eye. We're finally out. Whooshing Crocodile exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. After stepping out of the continent, Lin Tian stood in the starry sky and looked up. The continent was floating like a huge battleship in the starry sky. It was drifting into the distance, getting further and further away from them. Then he paused. His gaze retracted from the continent that was drifting into the distance and looked at the blue ancient token in his hand. The ancient token was only the size of a palm. It was blue, and the word Yuan on it was very eye-catching. Chapter 1451. The barrier that enveloped that continent was formed because of that ancient token. This is very obvious. After all, the ancient token has the same aura as that barrier, and it can easily break through that barrier. Just these 2 points alone are enough to explain a lot of things. Lin Tian nodded in agreement with Whooshing Crocodile's conjecture. However, it shouldn't be the blue ancient token that evolved on its own. It should have been condensed by someone using it. Someone? Jiang Luoluo thought for a moment and said, "Was it the human-shaped skeleton in the stone room who used the ancient token to condense the barrier when he was alive?" Lin Tian nodded. Obviously it was him, but why would he condense such a barrier? After enveloping the entire continent, it only restricts the creatures inside from stepping out, but doesn't restrict the creatures outside from entering. This seems a little strange. Whooshing Crocodile said, "There's no doubt that there was a super inheritance on that continent in the past. The human-shaped skeleton in the stone room may have been the core figure of this inheritance when he was alive. According to the situation of the large number of cultivators fighting in the hall that we entered, this inheritance should have been attacked by other experts. The human-shaped skeleton condensed that barrier with the ancient token when he was alive, perhaps to prevent any enemy from escaping," Lin Tiandao said. "Of course, this is just a guess. I can't say for sure what the specific situation is. Although it's just a guess, it's very likely." Whooshing Crocodile shook its head and said, "Forget it, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make any difference to us whether we figure it out or not. The key is still this ancient token. It looked at the blue ancient token in Lin Tian's hand and said, even that terrifying black-robed old man wanted to seize this thing. It must be a great treasure. Boy, try it and see what kind of power it has. Hearing this, Jiang Luoluo and little Taichu's eyes also fell on the ancient token in Lin Tian's hand. Obviously, they were very interested in this ancient token. Lin Tian was naturally very interested in this ancient token. He immediately tried to activate it with his divine power. However, the ancient token did not have any reaction. After he activated his divine power and poured it into the ancient token, it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Then he activated his divine thought to explore it, but found nothing. After his divine thought entered the ancient token, it was pitch black inside, and he could not sense anything. He briefly explained the situation, which surprised Wuxing Crocodile and the others. Then, Wuxing Crocodile and Jiang Luoluo took the ancient token and activated their divine power and used their divine thought to explore it. Little Taichu also took it and fiddled with it. However, the result was the same as Lin Tian's. We guessed that the enchantment outside the continent was formed by the human-shaped skeleton activating this ancient token when he was alive. This should be correct, since the human-shaped skeleton was able to activate the enchantment when he was alive. Why didn't it have any reaction when we activated it now? Wuxing Crocodile was puzzled. Lin Tian thought for a moment and said, perhaps it's because our cultivation isn't high enough to make this ancient token react. Or perhaps a special method is needed to activate it, and we don't know the method. Well, that should be the case. Wuxing Crocodile said, no matter what, this ancient token is definitely a great treasure. It's priceless. Although we can't activate it now, we will definitely be able to in the future. Lin Tian nodded in agreement, and then kept the ancient token in his body. The starry sky was still dark, and there were many stars everywhere. At this time, the strange continent had already disappeared. Let's go. Let's continue our journey to the ancient Tonghung star, he said. On the way to the ancient Tonghung star, they were caught by the strange continent. The time they spent on the continent was not short. At this time, they had already deviated from their original direction. However, this did not affect them much. Jiang Luoluo remembered the coordinates of the ancient Tonghung star. No matter where they were now, they would eventually reach the origin of life on the ancient Tonghung star as long as they followed the coordinates. Then, he called Wuxing Crocodile, Jiang Luoluo, and little Taichu to follow the coordinates of the ancient Tonghung star and move in a fixed direction. Soon 2.5 years had passed. On this day, the few of them stopped in the starry sky. There was an incomparably huge star in front of them. Compared to the other stars around it, it was like a giant elephant and an ant. It was surrounded by other stars like a moon surrounded by stars. It was like a crane among chickens. We're here. This is the ancient Tonghung star. Jiang Luo's eyes lit up with excitement. This was her hometown. Back then, she was teleported from the ancient Tonghung star field to the ancient Xian star field because she stepped on a teleportation formation. Lin Tian looked at Jiang Luoluo and naturally understood how Jiang Luoluo felt. When he returned after leaving the 10 Heavens domain, it was almost the same. Let's go. Without any hesitation, he called Wuxing Crocodile, Jiang Luoluo, and little Taichu to descend towards the ancient Tonghung star. After about 10 breaths of time, they penetrated the natural barrier that shrouded the ancient star and appeared inside the ancient star. As far as the eye could see, this was a vast and boundless world with towering celestial mountains and ancient peaks. The turbulent currents were turbulent, and the spirit chi in the air was extremely dense. It was even denser than the Xian ancient star. Amazing! Wuxing Crocodile was shocked. This was the first macro world that it had entered after leaving the 10 Heavens domain. At this time, looking at this macro world, its pupils could not help but shrink. This world was too vast and amazing. No matter what, it was far beyond the 10 Heavens domain. Lin Tian looked at this world and was not surprised. After all, he had been to the origin of life in the ancient Xian star. That world was not much worse than this one. At this time, he glanced at this world. Traces of light appeared in his eyes. This was because there was a sword's soul fragment in this world. That thing was very important to him. He spent 5.5 years to come to this world. The main purpose was to get that sword's soul fragment. I'm finally back. Stepping on this land again, Jiang Luoluo was more excited than when she looked at the ancient Tonghung star in the starry sky. Her eyes were brighter. Then, she took a deep breath and put away her excitement and joy. She thanked Lin Tiandao and said, I'll take you to the ancient land where the seven-colored divine light is. She knew that Lin Tian came to the ancient Tonghung star for 2 reasons. One was to send her back. The other was for the seven-colored divine light. He was very concerned about it. Lin Tianyi smiled and said, Don't worry. You've been away from home for 10 years. You'll be back after 10 years. Go home and have a look. Chapter 1452. Lin Tian knew that Jiang Luoluo was very grateful to him and could not wait to help him obtain the sword's soul fragment in this ancient planet. However, he also knew that Jiang Luoluo, who had been away from home for more than 10 years, missed her family very much. Jiang Luoluo's family should be worried about Jiang Luoluo all the time. Therefore, after more than 10 years, he sent Jiang Luoluo back to this land again. He felt that it was better for Jiang Luoluo to go home first. Go home first and let your great-grandfather, parents, and other elders feel at ease. This is filial piety. Filial piety is the most important thing in this world. He looked at Jiang Luoluo and smiled. Moreover, you must miss them very much. Jiang Luoluo had a lively personality and was not a pretentious person. Lin Tian's words of filial piety is the most important thing in the world moved her greatly. Adding on the fact that she really did miss her family, she nodded in agreement. Yes, thank you. Then I'll go home first, and then I'll immediately bring you to that ancient land to look for that seven-colored divine light, she said, feeling even more grateful to Lin Tian. This was because she knew that Lin Tian cared a lot about the seven-colored divine light in this world. However, at this time, Lin Tian did not immediately look for the seven-colored divine light after traveling thousands of miles and crossing the starry sky for 5.5 years to descend to this world. Instead of looking for that seven-colored divine light, he first considered her and asked her to go home first to see her family. This made her very touched. Let's go. I'll send you back, and then I'll look for that thing. Lin Tianandao. Jiang Luoluo immediately pointed the way. They walked along the east direction of this place. Along the way, they tore open the void several times to move. After more than 4 hours, they arrived near a boundless ocean. As far as the eye could see, the ocean was boundless, but on the surface, it was calm and peaceful. Not far from the ocean, there were many palaces, each of which was dazzling and majestic. We're here. This is my home. Jiang Luoluo seemed a little excited. She was very happy to be back after wandering outside for more than 10 years. Your home is really extraordinary. Wuxing Crocodile couldn't help but stare at the palaces in front of him. Although it had heard that Jiang Luoluo's family was extraordinary, it couldn't help but be shocked when it saw the magnificent palaces in front of it with its own eyes. Lin Tian was very calm. From where he was, Jiang Luoluo's family was indeed very grand and imposing. However, it was only slightly stronger than the purple evolved god sect of the Ziyin planet. It wasn't enough to surprise him. With Jiang Luoluo leading the way, they soon arrived at the Jiang residence. Who are you? There is, outside the Jiang family's residence, one of the Jiang family's disciples who were guarding the entrance came forward to inquire. The next moment, he was shocked when he saw Jiang Luoluo. Young lady. At the same time, the other guards also saw Jiang Luoluo, and they were all moved. Miss, you're finally back. Where have you been all these years? The patriarch, the elders, and the old ancestor are all worried sick. When they saw Jiang Luoluo, they were all pleasantly surprised. At the same time, someone shouted to the Jiang family, informing them that Jiang Luoluo was back. Jiang Luluo said a few words to the Jiang family's disciples and then led Lin Tian, the Wuxing crocodile, and the little Taichu into the Jiang residence. The Jiang residence was rich in spiritual energy, and there were many kinds of immortal plants. As soon as Lin Tian and the others walked in, they heard the sound of something breaking through the air. A dozen figures quickly rushed out from the depths of the Jiang residence. The purple-robed old man in the lead had the most amazing momentum, which made Lin Tian's eyes flash with a faint light. The eternal peak, he said to himself. At the same time, he glanced at the other figures who rushed out with the purple-robed old man and found that their cultivation was not bad. The weakest one was at the middle stage of the immortal realm. Next to him, the Wuxing crocodile stared. This Jiang girl's family is really powerful. Obviously, he also saw how terrifying the dozen people who rushed out of the Jiang family were. Great-grandfather, father, great ancestor, Jiang Luluo greeted them happily. It's good that you're back. It's good that you're back. Among the dozen people who came out from the depths of the Jiang residence, the purple-robed old man in the lead said. He was Jiang Luluo's great-grandfather and the great ancestor of this generation of the Jiang family. He was the most powerful person in this generation of the Jiang family. You sneaked out of the family and disappeared for more than 10 years. You made our family into a mess. Jiang Luo's father, the master of the Jiang family, reproached her, but everyone could hear the concern in his voice. Jiang Luoluo naturally heard the concern in the master of the Jiang family's words. She apologized in a low voice. Then, she introduced Lin Tian to the big shots of the Jiang family. Great-grandfather, father, and great ancestors, it's all thanks to his help that I can come back safely. She pulled Lin Tian aside and quickly told him what had happened in these years. The dozen big shots of the Jiang family saw Lin Tian the moment they came out. However, at first, they were focused on Jiang Luoluo. At this time, when they heard Jiang Luoluo introduce Lin Tian and learned that Lin Tian had helped Jiang Luoluo in various ways, they were immediately moved. Thank you, little friend. The great ancestor of the Jiang family expressed his thanks. Even though his cultivation was much higher than Lin Tian's, he was still extremely polite. At the same time, the head of the Jiang family also stepped forward to express his gratitude. Thank you for your help. My daughter is naughty and mischievous. I've troubled you all these years. Seniors, you're too polite. We're friends, so it's only right that we help each other. There's no need for thanks. Lin Tian said with a smile. Facing the patriarch of the Jiang family, who was at the peak of the immortal realm, and the patriarch of the Jiang family, who was at the peak of the eternal realm, he seemed very casual. After all, he had seen people at this level before. You can't say that. You've helped Luoluo so much. How can we not thank you? The Jiang family's grand ancestor said. On this day, the Jiang family held a big banquet to celebrate Jiang Luoluo's return. It was also to thank Lin Tian and welcome Lin Tianyi and the others. The day passed in the blink of an eye. After that, Lin Tian stayed in the Jiang family for 3 days under the great hospitality of the great ancestor and the head of the Jiang family. 3 days later, on this day, he bid farewell to the great ancestor and the head of the Jiang family and prepared to leave. He had to search for the sword's soul fragments that had fallen into this world. The great ancestor and the head of the Jiang family knew that Lin Tian had something important to do, so they did not continue to persuade him to stay. A group of big shots personally sent Lin Tian, Wuxing crocodile, and little Taichu out of the Jiang family. Little friend, after you're done, you can come to our family as a guest at any time. No matter when, the door of our family will always be open for you. If you need anything, just let us know. As long as the Jiang family can do it, we won't refuse. The great ancestor of the Jiang family said. He had always doted on Jiang Luoluo, a direct descendant of the Jiang family. Jiang Luoluo had gone missing more than 10 years ago, and the family had spent a lot of effort to find her, but to no avail. He had been worried sick all these years. Now that Lin Tian had sent Jiang Luoluo back, he learned from Jiang Luoluo that Lin Tian had helped Jiang Luoluo in various ways. He was very grateful to Lin Tian. The head of the Jiang family also spoke with a smile. He allowed Lin Tian to come to the Jiang family as a guest at any time. He was also very grateful to Lin Tian. Thank you for your hospitality, seniors. Lin Tian thanked them with a smile. At this moment, Jiang Luoluo, who was by Lin Tian's side, said to the Jiang family's patriarch and patriarch, that great-grandfather, Father, I will temporarily leave home for a period of time to accompany Lin Tian. Luoluo. Suddenly, a voice sounded from afar, interrupting Jiang Luoluo's words. A few hundred feet away, a handsome young man appeared, followed by 3 old men who looked like servants. In the blink of an eye, they arrived outside the Jiang family and stood in front of Jiang Luoluo, looking at her with a gentle gaze. Chapter 1453. The man was dressed in a blue robe. His spirit was extraordinary, and there was a faint emperor chi around him. The 3 elders behind him were even stronger. One of them was at the early stage of the emperor realm, while the other 2 were at the middle stage of the emperor realm. Wuxi, you're here? The great ancestor of the Jiang family looked at the man with a faint smile on his face. He clearly knew this blue-robed man. The man's name was Wuxi. He looked gentle and elegant. He bowed to the great ancestor of the Jiang family, the master of the Jiang family, and the others, and said, I heard that Luoluo had returned, so I immediately rushed over. As he spoke, he looked at Jiang Luoluo again. His gaze was very gentle, and anyone could see the adoration in his eyes. Luoluo, are you all right? Yes, I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Jiang Luoluo said. Lin Tian glanced at Jiang Luoluo. He realized that Jiang Luoluo did not seem to be interested in this man. Although her words were very polite, there was clearly a perfunctory feeling. However, he did not care much about this. He looked at the great ancestor of the Jiang family and said goodbye again. He also said goodbye to Jiang Luoluo and then walked away. Ah? Jiang Luoluo pulled Lin Tian. Didn't we agree that I would go with you? Why are you saying goodbye to me? It's only been 3 days since you returned from wandering outside. It's better for you to stay at home and accompany your great-grandfather, father, and other elders. You don't have to go with me. Lin Tiandao. He had already learned the exact location of the ancient land that contained the sword soul fragment from Jiang Luoluo. It did not matter if Jiang Luoluo followed him or not. In fact, if Jiang Luoluo did not follow him, he would act faster. After all, the place with the sword soul fragment was not a good place. If he encountered danger, he would have to protect Jiang Luoluo. As for the Wuxing crocodile and the little Taichu, they were different. They were stronger than Jiang Luoluo, and they were very experienced in various aspects. Moreover, they would follow him no matter what. Jiang Luoluo grabbed Lin Tian's hand. She was very quick-witted. She paused and said, You don't like me. He felt that I would be a small burden if I went with him. Lin Tian couldn't help but smile. Oh, you said it yourself. I didn't say that. One of them was glaring angrily, while the other had a faint smile on his face. They looked rather intimate. Wu Xi's eyes glinted. He had seen Lin Tian when he first arrived, but he didn't pay much attention to him. It wasn't until he saw Jiang Luoluo holding Lin Tian's hand that he truly set his eyes on Lin Tian. Luoluo, who is this? He glanced at Lin Tian and asked Jiang Luoluo with a gentle smile on his face. My friend, Jiang Luoluo said. Her words were simple, not saying much. Wu Xi looked at Lin Tian and smiled amiably. He extended his right hand and said, Hello, I'm Wu Xi. Since you're Luoluo's friend, you're my friend too. Nice to meet you. Lin Tian. Lin Tian extended his hand and shook this person's hand. His words were as simple as Jiang Luoluo's. He felt that the smile on this person's face was a little fake. Brother Lin, you have a dignified appearance. You're definitely not an ordinary person. Wu Xi smiled. Brother Wu, you flatter me. Lin Tiandao. Although he felt that Wu Xi's smile was a little fake, there was a saying after all, don't hit a smiling person. Therefore, he naturally treated him calmly. After he finished speaking, he looked at the ancestor of the Jiang family and the head of the Jiang family and said goodbye again. He was ready to leave immediately. You really don't want me to come with you? Zhang Luoluo pulled him. Lin Tian smiled and said, You really don't have to come with me. It's better for you to stay in the family and accompany your family. Before I finish my business and leave, I'll come and disturb you again. At that time, oh, if you're free, you can take me around this world. Then, well, remember what you said. Before you finish your business and leave, you must come and find me. I'll take you around this world. If you leave quietly after you finish your business, I'll go to your hometown to find you, Zhang Luoluo said. In fact, she also knew that she was not strong enough. Going to that ancient land with Lin Tian was really a small burden. At the same time, she also knew that Lin Tian was not from this world. After he found the mass of 7-colored divine light in this world, he would definitely leave this world. She thought that before Lin Tian left, she must do something to thank Lin Tian. Don't worry. Before I leave, I'll definitely come and find you again, Lin Tian said with a smile. After he finished speaking, he nodded to the ancestor of the Jiang family and the others. Then, he left with Wuxing Crocodile and Little Tai Chu. Wuxi looked at Lin Tian's back as he left. An obscure light flickered in the depths of his eyes, but he still had a smile on his face. Ancestors, seniors, I'll also take my leave. He bowed to the ancestor of the Jiang family and the head of the Jiang family. Don't you want to come in and have a seat? No. I'm relieved to see that Luoluo is safe and sound. Luoluo has been wandering outside for so many years. It must be very hard for her. Moreover, she must have a lot to talk to you seniors. I'll come and visit Luoluo later, Wuxi said. He looked at Zhang Luoluo with a gentle gaze and said goodbye to her. Then, he bowed to the ancestor of the Jiang family and left with his 3 servants. Lin Tian left the place where the Jiang family lived. At this time, he was already far away. He was heading to the south of the ancient star. He learned from Zhang Luoluo that in this world, the ancient land with the 7-colored divine light was located in the southern region of this world. It was called the Crimson Wilderness and covered a vast area. There were all kinds of strange monsters living in it. It was a natural training ground for this star. Usually, many cultivators would go to the wilderness to train themselves. However, although many people went to the wilderness to train themselves, most of the cultivators only dared to train at the edge of the wilderness. They did not dare to go to the depths of the wilderness. This was because there were very terrifying existences living in the depths of the wilderness. Only the Eternal Realm experts dared to set foot there. The 7-colored divine light was located in the deepest part of the Crimson Wilderness. It had been discovered by the experts on the ancient star for countless years. However, no one had been able to take it away, not even the experts of the Eternal Realm. How far is it from here to the Crimson Wilderness? Wuxing Crocodile asked. It's not too far, Lin Tian said. Of course, if we fly, we'll be able to get there in roughly 4 hours. He did not tear the void to move. Instead, he walked naturally toward the Crimson Wilderness. Soon, he took Wuxing Crocodile and Little Tai Chu far away. They went over a dozen mountains in a row. It was also at this time that he suddenly stopped in his tracks and glanced behind him. Come out. His voice was flat. Wuxing Crocodile and Little Tai Chu were slightly moved when they heard this. They followed Lin Tian's gaze and looked behind them. A breeze blew in the air. After 3 breaths, the void distorted and an old man appeared from the void. It's you! The 5-element crocodile immediately narrowed his eyes and recognized this old man. Surprisingly, he was one of the 3 old servants that followed behind Wuxi. The old man who appeared from the void was wearing a gray robe. His cheeks were wrinkled, but his chi and blood were very vigorous. Good spiritual sense. He looked at Lin Tian and said in a hoarse voice, Wuxi asked you to come. What does he want? Lin Tian was very calm. He naturally remembered that this old man was one of the 3 old servants who followed Wuxi. Miss Jiang is a noble lady. Not everyone can get close to her. You've displeased the young master of my clan, the gray-robed old man said. He did not care that Lin Tian had discovered him hiding in the void and following him. He was calm. Lin Tian smiled when he heard this. He understood the purpose of the gray-robed old man's visit. Wu Si was jealous of him because he was with Jiang Luoluo. Therefore, he sent the gray-robed old man to kill him. That girl said that she has good eyesight and knows how to judge people. It's true. Well, she's good. He smiled and muttered to himself. Previously, when he was outside the Jiang family, he noticed that Jiang Luoluo did not like Wu Si and was perfunctory. Now he finally understood the reason. Obviously, Jiang Luoluo knew that Wu Si was not a good person and did not want to have anything to do with him. However, because the Wu family and the Jiang family were both top forces connected to the Eternal Star and had been friends for generations, she had to deal with him on the surface. Otherwise, with Jiang Luo's straightforward personality, she would not have bothered with him. In fact, when he first met Wu Si, he did not like him. He felt that the smile on his face was fake and that he was a hypocrite. However, he did not expect him to be so sinister and ruthless. Just because he admired Jiang Luoluo, he wanted to kill him when he saw Lin Tian getting too close to Jiang Luoluo. Go back and tell him that Luoluo and I are just friends. There is no romantic relationship between us. Don't make enemies for yourself, he said to the gray-robed old man. Do you think that's possible? The gray-robed old man's expression was indifferent. He took a step towards Lin Tian. Faint waves of divine power appeared on the surface of his body, and his killing intent was not concealed at all. Young master means to make you disappear from this world. It doesn't matter if you and Miss Luoluo have any romantic relationship. What's important is that your existence has displeased young master. All right, Lin Tian said with a smile. However, do you think you can kill me? Are you sure you won't regret it? I am not talented, but I am at the level of Emperor Realm. I am enough to kill you. The gray-robed old man was very calm. He felt that since Lin Tian was friends with Jiang Luoluo, his cultivation should be about the same as Jiang Luoluo's. Jiang Luoluo's cultivation could not be compared to his, who was at the Emperor Realm. Then, it would be easy for him to kill Lin Tian. Beside Lin Tian, the Wuxing crocodile opened his mouth. He looked at the gray-robed old man as if he was watching a monkey performing a circus. Old man, to say such words in such a calm manner, are you deliberately here to tease us? Chapter 1454. Looking at the gray-robed elder, Wuxing crocodile only felt that the other party was very funny and weird. Even little Taichu could not help but stare at the gray-robed elder with its big, watery eyes. It held its little belly and laughed in a very human-like way, making fun of the gray-robed elder. The gray-robed elder's face immediately darkened. He stared coldly at Wuxing crocodile and little Taichu and said, "After I kill him, it will be your turn, you two bastards." Faint divine light intertwined around his body. He raised his hand and slapped toward Lin Tian. Suddenly, the void shook and a large part of it was shattered. The scene was terrifying. Lin Tian had a faint smile on his face. He stretched out a finger and easily blocked the gray-robed elder's murderous palm print. "You?" The gray-robed elder's expression changed immediately. He did not show any mercy in this slap. He had used his full strength, wanting to kill Lin Tian in a single strike before killing the 5 Elements crocodile and little Grand Primordium. However, he never thought that Lin Tian would actually be able to block his full-strength strike so easily with a single finger. "Now, do you still think that you can kill me with your Emperor-level cultivation?" Lin Tian Dao. As he spoke, a wisp of immortal-level pressure spread out. The gray-robed elder's expression changed again, and he trembled violently. His eyes were filled with shock and fear. He did not expect Lin Tian to be in the immortal realm. Immortal realm! The person he came to kill was in the immortal realm. With a buzzing sound, he retracted the palm print and turned around to escape without hesitation. Lin Tian smiled. His mid-level, immortal-level divine power shook and froze the surrounding space. With a bang, the gray-robed elder who was escaping was knocked back. "Little brother, spare my life. Don't kill me." The gray-robed elder trembled. He no longer had the calmness and composure he had at the beginning. His eyes were filled with fear. Lin Tian's expression did not change. I gave you a chance to live at the beginning, but you did not cherish it. The gray-robed elder trembled. I poo. Lin Tian pointed a finger and pierced right through this person's forehead, crushing the soul in his mind. All that was left was an intact flesh shell. This old man is really... Whooshing Crocodile laughed, then asked Lin Tian, speaking of which, why did you leave his flesh shell behind? For you to cultivate. Use the Saint Refinement Precious technique to refine and strengthen yourself. Lin Tiandao. Saint Artifact Refining Technique? Whooshing Crocodile frowned. That technique seems to be something only you humans can practice, right? Back in the sealed dust ancient region, when Lin Tian first found the Saint Refinement Treasure technique, he had given it to the demon beast to cultivate. Unfortunately, the demon beast was unable to cultivate it. That level of technique was only suitable for humans. Demon beast cultivators were unable to cultivate it. Now it's possible. I've improved this technique a few years after coming here from the 10 Directions Heaven domain. Now both humans and monsters can practice it. You and the little guy can control it. Lin Tiandao. Hearing his words, Whooshing Crocodile suddenly showed a surprised and pleasantly surprised expression. Really? I'm not lying to you? It knew how powerful this Saint Refinement Treasure technique was. If it could control it, it was bound to make rapid progress on the path of cultivation in the future. When have I ever lied to you? Lin Tiandao stretched out his hand and pointed a finger. A wisp of divine sense rushed into Whooshing Crocodile's mind. It was the Saint Refinement Treasure technique that he had modified over the years. At the same time, he also pointed a finger at little Taichu and imparted the modified Saint Refinement Treasure technique to it. In the future, as long as there was a suitable expert's flesh shell by relying on this technique, whether it was him, Whooshing Crocodile, or little Taichu, their cultivation would be able to advance by leaps and bounds. Whooshing Crocodile closed its eyes and carefully felt the modified Saint Refinement Treasure technique that Lin Tian passed into its mind. Then, its eyes brightened. It's really possible. Just by slightly comprehending the revised Saint Refining Treasure technique that Lin Tian had inserted into its sea of consciousness, it knew that it would definitely be able to cultivate this technique now. If I say it's possible, then it's possible, Lin Tiandao said. Find a place nearby and refine this flesh shell first. Then, we'll go to the barren wilderness. The gray-robed old man was at the early stage of Emperor Void. The flesh and blood essence contained in the flesh shell was only effective for Whooshing Crocodile among the three of them. This was because Whooshing Crocodile was still at the heavenly venerable level, which was below the early stage of Emperor Void. As for him and little Taichu, one was at the middle stage of Immortal Void, and the other was at the middle stage of Emperor Void. They had both surpassed the early stage of Emperor Void. Since they had surpassed this level, refining the flesh shell of a cultivator at this level was naturally useless. At that moment, he probed with his divine thought and found a relatively secret place nearby. He casually set up 9 ceiling formations and then let Whooshing Crocodile begin to refine the gray-robed old man's flesh shell with the modified Saint Refinement Treasure technique that he had refined. Master Crocodile is starting. Whooshing Crocodile roared and operated the Saint Refinement Treasure technique that Lin Tian had modified. The process was very smooth. It began to absorb the flesh and blood essence in the gray-robed old man's flesh shell strand by strand, and its own essence, chi, and spirit rose rapidly. Soon, 3 days passed. The gray-robed old man's flesh shell dried up and shattered. On the opposite side, Whooshing Crocodile's body surged with vigorous energy. Its cultivation rose from the 8th stage, heavenly venerable level to the peak 9th stage, heavenly venerable level. Its essence, chi, and spirit had increased substantially. It's really a success. It was very excited. It was not until dozens of breaths later that it calmed down a little, but its eyes were still very bright. Stop howling. Look at your useless appearance. Lin Tian squinted at it. Whooshing Crocodile rolled its eyes, paused, and said, "Boy, that little bastard called Wu Si. What should we do with him?" Just because Lin Tian and Jiang Luo were close, Wu Si sent someone to kill Lin Tian. When facing Lin Tian head-on, Wu Si had a gentle smile on his face. This really made Wuxing Crocodile feel a little disgusted, and it was quite unhappy. He's just a clown. I'm too lazy to look for him. After that, it's fine if we don't meet him. If we meet him, just kill him, Lin Tian said calmly. Wu Si's Wu family, along with the Jiang family, the Zhou family, the Sky-Severing sect, and the Tongheng Immortal sect, were the top inheritances of the Tongheng Ancient Star. They were very strong, and Wu Si's status in the Wu family was also very high. However, he did not care at all. Now, he had his own things to do, and he was too lazy to take the initiative to look for the other party. However, if they met again by chance, he would not show mercy. It did not matter how high the other party's status in the Wu family was. If they met again, there was only one word for it: kill. Lord Crocodile thinks so too. Wuxing Crocodile bared its teeth. All right, let's go to the Crimson Wilderness. Lin Tiandao. Little Taichu lay on his shoulder. At this time, he called out to Wuxing Crocodile and left this place. They continued to head to the south of this world, where the Crimson Wilderness was located. In the depths of this world, there was a sword soul fragment. Tongheng Ancient Star, Wu family. Wu family was located in a group of immortal mountains. There were groups of majestic halls, and the family was surrounded by dense spiritual energy. Young Master, the person who went to kill the young man called Lin Tian, has his soul lamp extinguished. He is dead. In a hall, an old servant reported to Wu Si, who was dressed in a blue robe. Wu Si's face darkened. The person he sent to kill Lin Tian was at the early stage of Emperor Void Realm. How could he fail? Could it be that Lin Tian's cultivation exceeded the early stage of Emperor Void Realm? The first kill failed. He already knows that I'm behind the person who killed him. Therefore, I can't let him live. He raised his hand slightly, and a seal flew out from his body, exuding wisps of eternal weapon pressure. Before he sees Luoluo again, kill him. Yes, young master. The old servant took the seal and disappeared into the hall in a flash. Lin Tian, Wuxing Crocodile, and Little Taichu flew in the air, leaving the hidden place where Wuxing Crocodile broke through to stage 9 Heavenly Venerable. They were not fast, but they were not slow either. They headed south. In the blink of an eye, 4 hours passed. At this moment, an incomparably vast wasteland appeared in front of them. They did not know how wide it was, and they could not see the end of it at a glance. We're here, Lin Tian muttered to himself, and a faint light flashed across his eyes. This was the Crimson Wasteland that Jiang Luoluo mentioned contained the sword's soul fragment. Arriving here, he did not hesitate. He called out to Wuxing Crocodile and Little Taichu, and they directly approached and stepped into the wasteland. As far as the eye could see, there were many ancient trees in the great wasteland, but most of them were withered, which was quite fitting for the word wasteland. There were roars of beasts and birds intertwined in the great wasteland, and there were also the roars of human cultivators echoing in the air. Many people here were fighting against powerful demonic beasts in order to improve their strength and improve themselves. Poof! In the distance, a great Tao-level beast was beheaded, and blood splattered in all directions. Ah! In another location, a human cultivator screamed miserably as he was swallowed into the stomach of a giant Wuzhen-level pangolin. Coming here to train, some people killed beasts one after another to improve their combat strength. Naturally, there were also people who met with misfortune here and died in the bellies of the beasts, becoming food for the beasts here. Lin Tian was not interested in the training of these cultivators in this place. He walked straight into the depths of the wasteland. Boom! A Wuzhen-level beast swooped down from the sky. Its claws were as sharp as swords, and it clawed at Lin Tian's head. Lin Tian did not even bother to look at it. His pace did not change as he continued to walk into the depths of the wasteland. Little thing, go to the side. Wuxing Crocodile glanced at the beast that swooped down. The body of the ferocious bird that pounced over was enormous, and its wingspan was over 100 feet. When it met the 5-element alligator's gaze, it immediately trembled and forcefully stopped its swooping momentum. A wave of fear arose from its instinct, and it directly turned around and fled into the distance. After all, it and whooshing crocodile were both demons. It could clearly feel the terrifying demonic aura that naturally intertwined around whooshing crocodile's body. If it attacked, it could easily crush it. If it did not escape, only death awaited it. Lin Tian did not care about it and continued walking. In the blink of an eye, 4 hours passed. He brought whooshing crocodile and little Taichu to the center of the wasteland. Help! Chapter 1455. The green-robed man was in a sorry state. He was at the Nirvana realm, but the fierce ape chasing him was comparable to an Emperor realm expert. Its demonic aura was very strong. "Save me!" he shouted. Naturally, he saw Lin Tianyi and the others. As he staggered to escape, he looked back from time to time. Roar! The fierce ape roared, and the demonic aura was shocking. "Help!" the man shouted again. Lin Tian came here with a whooshing crocodile and little Taichu. When he saw this scene, he naturally wouldn't stand by and watch. He drew a sword aura forward, and with a bang, the fierce ape chasing the man was sent flying. It couldn't get up for a long time. "Thank you. Thank you." The green-robed man ran to Lin Tian and thanked Lin Tiandao while panting. His face was a little pale, and there were many injuries on his body. As he panted, there was a hint of surprise in his eyes. This was because Lin Tian didn't look very old, but he was able to easily send the fierce ape that was comparable to an emperor rank expert flying. His strength was truly quite tyrannical. "It's okay. It's nothing." Lin Tiandao said that he didn't need to be so polite. The green-robed man thanked him again and then said, "Well, my name is Jiang Yichuan. Can I stay with you for a while?" Like many cultivators, he also came to the wasteland to train. With his Nirvana realm cultivation, he gradually left the edge of the wasteland, which was the safest place. Then, he was swept by a strange wind to the area behind the center of the wasteland. There were too many evil creatures and ferocious beasts in this area. With his Nirvana realm cultivation, it was simply not enough. When he encountered danger several times and tried to escape, there were also groups of ferocious beasts blocking his way. He was no match for them, so he was directly trapped in this area. At this time, he saw Lin Tianyi and the others and saw how strong Lin Tian was, so he wanted to stay with Lin Tianyi temporarily. Together with Lin Tianyi, he felt that he would definitely be able to get out safely. Lin Tian was a little hesitant. He wanted to go to the depths of the sword soul fragment and didn't want to bring Jiang Yichuan with him. After all, this person's cultivation was too low. If he really brought him along, he might become a burden later on. "Please!" Jiang Yichuan looked at Lin Tian and spoke again. His eyes were filled with hope and pleading. Lin Tian sighed slightly and nodded. "All right." Jiang Yichuan was delighted. "Thank you. Many thanks." Lin Tian waved his hand and continued to walk deeper into the forest. Soon, he was far away from the central region. During this process, many terrifying ferocious birds and beasts pounced over. However, they were all easily killed by Lin Tian. Moreover, along the way, Lin Tian found a lot of precious herbs and strange fruits. Although they weren't very precious and weren't of much use to him, the whooshing crocodile and the little Taichu, they were still valuable. He took most of them and gave the rest to Jiang Yichuan. This made Jiang Yichuan very surprised. After all, Jiang Yichuan's cultivation was only in the Nirvana realm. These things were nothing to Lin Tianyi and the others, but to Jiang Yichuan, who was in the Nirvana realm, they were undoubtedly treasures and divine treasures. However, gradually, Jiang Yichuan's expression changed. He found that Lin Tian was going deeper and deeper into the wasteland. Are you going to go deeper into the wasteland?" he asked. Lin Tian nodded and said yes. After his guess was confirmed, Jiang Yichuan turned pale with fright and said anxiously, It said that the depths of the wasteland are full of terrifying monsters. You can't go there. You're courting death if you go there." Previously, he saw that Lin Tian was very powerful and thought that if he followed Lin Tian, he would be able to get out of the wasteland safely. However, he didn't expect that Lin Tian was going to go deeper into the wasteland. That area was the most dangerous place in the wasteland. Only the masters of the Eternal Realm dared to set foot there. Lin Tian was going there? Do you know how to talk? What do you mean by courting death? Are you cursing us? Wuxing Crocodile was a little dissatisfied. Lin Tian was very calm. He said, if you are afraid and have concerns, you can separate here. You don't have to follow us. With that, he continued to walk deeper into the wasteland without changing his pace. Wuxing Crocodile and the little Taichu followed him on his left and right. They went deeper into the wasteland together. Zhang Yichuan looked at the direction where Lin Tian and the others were heading. He was a little flustered and scared, but in the end, he gritted his teeth and followed them. That was because he was now far away from the center of the wasteland with Lin Tian and the others. If he separated from Lin Tian and the others at this time and acted alone, he would be in great danger. He wouldn't be able to fend off the terrifying, ferocious beasts in this area. If he encountered any one of them, he would die tragically. However, if he continued to follow Lin Tian into the depths of the wasteland, although it would be very dangerous, he wouldn't necessarily die. At least, he had a higher chance of survival than if he acted alone. Therefore, after weighing the two options, he could only continue to follow Lin Tian. Lin Tian saw that Zhang Yichuan continued to follow him and didn't say anything. He didn't change his pace at all. Very quickly, an entire 6 hours had passed. More than 6 hours later, the sky became dark. Stars twinkled in the sky, and night covered the earth. In this wasteland, the roars of the ferocious beasts were even more harsh than during the day. That was because the ferocious beasts were most active at night. It was also at this time that Lin Tian led Wuxing Crocodile and the others to the depths of the wasteland. In his sea of consciousness, the divine sword trembled slightly. Strands of rainbow-colored light swayed out and spread into the depths of his sea of consciousness. It's not far from this position. A faint light flashed through Lin Tian's eyes. He had already known from Jiang Luoluo that there was a mass of rainbow-colored divine light in the depths of the wasteland. He had already confirmed that the mass of rainbow-colored divine light was the sword's soul fragment. However, when he came here at this time, the divine sword in his sea of consciousness had a strange reaction, indicating that there was a sword's soul fragment in this area. He couldn't help but feel a little surprised. Roar! In the depths of the wasteland, the ferocious beasts roared and the demonic aura rolled. The moonlight sprinkled on this land, covering the wasteland with a layer of faint silver light. Not far away, there was a ghost tiger covered in bone spikes walking. It wasn't fast, but its aura was very shocking. It was at the immortal level. At the same time, a ferocious bird streaked across the sky in the northwest direction. Its wingspan was at least 1,000 feet. It was also intertwined with the pressure of a peak immortal expert, causing the void to distort inch by inch. Then, it shattered with a series of cracking sounds. In the southeast, a dark flame centipede was at the immortal level. Its whole body was intertwined with light. Its pupils were blood red. Further away, there were all kinds of ferocious beasts. There were winged giant ants, red-haired giant rhinoceroses, and immortal-level yikshaws facing the sky and swallowing the origin energy of the stars. Their auras were very terrifying. Jiang Yichuan's heart trembled. He actually followed Lin Tian and the others to the depths of the wasteland. Looking at the terrifying, ferocious beasts in this area, he felt that the air they exhaled from their nostrils was enough to crush him. Hide your aura. Don't let them find you, Lin Tian said in a low voice. The immortal-level ferocious beasts in this place were nothing to him now. With his current battle strength, he could even kill a half-step eternal-level expert easily. The reason why he was so cautious at this moment was that he vaguely felt the demon aura of the eternal level in this area. And there was more than one. If one or two eternal-level ferocious beasts were attracted, because of the fight with the immortal-level demonic beasts here, it would be troublesome. He suppressed his aura to the lowest level and moved carefully in this area, avoiding the tyrannical ferocious beasts. Soon, 2 hours passed. At this time, he led Wuxing Crocodile and the others through the depths of the wasteland. After a short distance, they avoided the terrifying ferocious beasts and came to a place a few hundred meters away from a small valley. In the small valley, a fist-sized seven-colored divine light floated up and down. It emitted rays of seven-colored light, causing the nearby Great Tao to surrender. Everything was suppressed. Found it? Lin Tian's eyes immediately lit up. He stared straight at the seven-colored divine light floating up and down in the small valley. There was no doubt that this was another sword's soul fragment. Whooshing Crocodile showed a surprised expression. This place really has such a seven-colored divine light? Before coming here, it had already found out the purpose of coming here from Lin Tian. It knew that there was a seven-colored divine light here. However, when it saw it now, it could not help but be a little surprised. This was because it clearly knew that the seven-colored divine light was extraordinary. Just how many of these things are there? When it was in the 10 Directions heavenly territory, it had seen Lin Tian obtain several identical seven-colored divine lights. Now that it saw another one, it was both surprised and puzzled. At the same time, Jiang Yichuan's expression also changed. His eyes could not stop flickering. This is the legendary divine light of the immortal path in the barren wasteland. The divine object that even experts of the eternal realm dream of obtaining. Since ancient times, there had been a rumor in the ancient star that there was a special seven-colored divine light in the depths of the barren wasteland. It contained infinite possibilities and was called the first divine treasure of the ancient star. Several Eternal Realm experts of the top superpowers had gone there to obtain it. They even brought genuine immortal weapons, but they all failed. The seven-colored divine light in the depths of the barren wasteland repelled everything and even suppressed the great ways. No one could take it away, not even get close to it. He was a practitioner of the ancient star and knew that the legend was true. He knew that there was indeed a seven-colored divine light in the barren wasteland, but he had never seen it before. Now that he saw it with his own eyes, he felt that the great ways around him had surrendered to it. His eyes flickered and his face was full of shock. "Wait for me here. I'll get it and then leave." Lin Tiandao. This place was very quiet, and there were no fierce birds or beasts nearby. He asked Whooshing Crocodile and the others to wait there while he walked toward the seven-colored divine light. Chapter 1456. Lin Tian didn't care about Jiang Yichuan's words. He continued to walk toward the small valley. "You can't go there. Not only will you be seriously injured if you get close to it, but you may also attract very terrifying, fierce beasts. All of us will be in danger. You are too reckless." Jiang Yichuan shouted anxiously. "Shut up. Just watch quietly." Whooshing Crocodile growled and wanted to slap Jiang Yichuan away. The seven-colored divine light was extremely extraordinary. Ordinary people couldn't control it, but Lin Tian could easily absorb it into his body. It knew this very well. At this moment, listening to Jiang Yichuan's words, it felt a little annoyed. At this time, Lin Tian approached step by step. In the blink of an eye, he closed the distance of several hundred feet and came directly to the seven-colored divine light. When he witnessed this scene, Jiang Yichuan, who was over 1 kilometer away, immediately revealed an expression of shock and disbelief. Lin Tian had actually walked over to the ball of seven-colored divine light, and he hadn't encountered any obstruction throughout the entire process. It was like he was walking on flat ground. Then, in the next moment, his expression changed again. In his vision, Lin Tian stepped in front of the seven-colored divine light. His right hand moved slightly, and the seven-colored divine light seemed to be summoned. In a flash, entered Lin Tian's body. In just a moment, there was a faint seven-colored divine light outside Lin Tian's body, as if it had merged with the seven-colored divine light. He was shocked. The legendary divine light of the immortal path on the star-connecting star contained 7 colors. It suppressed the great path and rejected everything. Even experts of the eternal realm with genuine immortal weapons couldn't take it away or even approach it. But now, in front of him, Lin Tian walked to the seven-colored divine light and easily absorbed it into his body. This made his eyelids twitch violently. How is this possible? He couldn't see Lin Tion's specific cultivation, but he could feel that Lin Tion definitely hadn't reached the eternal realm. However, Lin Tion easily took the seven-color divine light that those experts of the eternal realm couldn't even get close to. This made him open his eyes wide. He felt like he was seeing an illusion at this moment. Buzz! In the small valley, Lin Tion guided the seven-colored divine light into his body. Then the seven-colored divine light instantly entered his knowledge sea. The seven-colored divine light was the sword's soul fragment of the divine sword in his sea of consciousness. After entering his sea of consciousness, it instantly sank into the seven-colored divine sword at the bottom of his sea of consciousness. Then, just like before, strands of seven-colored divine light reverberated. The seven-colored light possessed extremely shocking amounts of spiritual qi. He immediately refined it with the Sun Heart Sutra, causing his body to be dyed with a layer of seven-colored light as a result. His vital energies rose at an extremely shocking rate. At the same time, his cultivation base began to improve again, from the middle immortal realm to the peak immortal realm. Just like that, 4 hours passed in the blink of an eye. 4 hours later, he completely refined the seven-colored divine light that was bestowed by the sword's soul fragment after merging with the divine sword. His vital energies were much stronger, and his cultivation base had increased a lot. He was not far away from the peak immortal realm. At the same time, he scanned the divine sword at the bottom of his sea of consciousness with his divine consciousness. He found that more divine inscriptions on the divine sword that were originally dim had become brighter. The aura it emitted was more vast and complex, as if it contained everything. About half of the divine inscriptions are lit up. About half of them are not lit up and are in a dim state. Glancing at the divine sword, he was a little absent-minded. How many sword soul fragments are scattered in this world? What is the origin of this divine sword? Over the years, he had studied the divine sword in his sea of consciousness countless times. However, in the end, except for the fact that it was very powerful and terrifying, he couldn't figure out anything else. He was completely confused about this sword. I don't know how long it will take to gather all of them. He sighed. Once the seven-colored divine sword was gathered, he was sure that it would be so terrifying that it would make one's hair stand on end. However, he really couldn't say for sure when it would be able to gather all the divine sword. However, even so, there was one thing that he was happy about. As more and more sword soul fragments were gathered, he found that he could occasionally sense the divine sword. When he communicated with it with his divine consciousness, he could occasionally make it vibrate a little. Of course, it was just a little vibration, and the probability of that happening was very small. Even so, this change was enough to make him happy. He felt that if he could find another 2 or 3 sword soul fragments, he might be able to summon the divine sword out of his sea of consciousness with his divine consciousness. Once he could summon the divine sword out and use it as a weapon, it would undoubtedly be a super powerful killing weapon. He felt that it would not be difficult for him to kill an enemy who was 3 realms higher than him. He could do it easily. Later on, when he gathered all the sword soul fragments, he believed that he would be able to control the divine sword 100%. At that time, when the divine sword appeared, all things would retreat. Finally, he scanned the seven-colored divine sword with his divine consciousness and said to himself, "Try your best to find the sword's soul fragments." Then he opened his eyes. At this time, there was a faint divine light lingering around his body, causing the space around him to distort like water ripples. With a slight thought, he controlled the divine light outside his body and absorbed it into his body. He took a deep breath and then took a step forward. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Whooshing Crocodile and the others. "Not bad. Your cultivation has improved a lot." Whooshing Crocodile clicked his tongue and said. Little Taichu called out in a childish voice. It landed on Lin Tion's shoulder and lay down leisurely. Only Zhang Yichuan's face was filled with shock as he looked at Lin Tian. At this moment, he was completely stunned. The legendary immortal Tao Divine Light that resided in the depths of the great wasteland had actually been so easily obtained by Lin Tian. "Okay, let's go," Lin Tian said. He'd only entered the great wasteland to obtain the sword soul fragments. Now that he'd obtained them, there was no need for them to stay here any longer. Immediately, he led Whooshing Crocodile and the others along the path they'd come from, avoiding the terrible beasts in the depths of the great wasteland. Soon after, they walked out of the great wasteland. Outside the great wasteland, the air was much fresher and the wind was much gentler. There was no longer the oppressive feeling in the great wasteland. "Let's part here," he said to Zhang Yichuan. Zhang Yichuan had asked to go with them because he was afraid of the birds and beasts in the great wasteland. Now that they were out of the great wasteland, the threat from the birds and beasts had disappeared. There was no need for Zhang Yichuan to follow them, and there was even less need for him to bring Zhang Yichuan along. "Oh, okay," Zhang Yichuan said. Until now, he was still immersed in the shock that Lin Tian had obtained the immortal divine light in the depths of the great wasteland. Lin Tian nodded at him and didn't say anything more. He led Whooshing Crocodile and little Taichu into the distance. Soon, they were far away and disappeared at the end of the sky. Zhang Yichuan looked at Lin Tian's receding figure, and the shock in his eyes was still very strong. He muttered to himself, unexpectedly. After dozens of breaths, the shock in his eyes gradually weakened, and then slowly disappeared. The immortal divine light has been taken and merged. The value of this news to those top forces. The expression in his eyes began to change uncontrollably. Lin Tian and the others walked out of the great wasteland and separated from Zhang Yichuan. At this time, they had already crossed several mountains. "Boy, where are we going now?" Whooshing Crocodile asked. "First, we'll go to the Zhang family to find Luoluo, and then leave this ancient star. Or maybe we can see if we can train in this world and find opportunities to continue improving ourselves." Lin Tiandao. After obtaining the Sword Soul Fragment in the Great Wasteland, whether they wanted to leave this ancient planet or continue to train in this ancient planet, they had to go to the Zhang family. After all, if they left, they would definitely have to say goodbye to Zhang Luoluo. And if they wanted to stay in this world to train, Zhang Luoluo, who was familiar with this world, would undoubtedly be a very qualified guide. Immediately, they flew towards the Zhang family. Because there was no urgent matter, they didn't fly very fast. After dozens of breaths, they left behind several mountains. Suddenly, two figures rushed over from the southeast. The two figures were extremely fast. In the blink of an eye, they arrived in front of Lin Tianyi and the others, blocking the path forward of Lin Tian and the others. These were two elders. Their spirits were very strong, and they were both in the middle stage of Emperor Realm. "It's you!" Lin Tian stopped, looked at the two elders rushing over, and smiled faintly. These two people were two of the three elders who had followed behind Wu Si from the Wu family. Previously, one of them had been ordered by Wu Si to take his life, but he had been killed by him. Now, these two stronger people had appeared before him. He naturally knew the purpose of their visit. Obviously, because the previous elder failed to kill him. Wu Si from the Wu family continued to send people to take his life. Next to him, Whooshing Crocodile stared at the two elders rushing over. Its eyes lit up. "Boy, take them down. This is the treasure. They are here to deliver the treasure to Lord Crocodile." It naturally knew that these two elders were ordered by Wu Si to kill Lin Tian, but it didn't care at all. After all, Lin Tian was in the middle stage of Immortal Realm. These two elders in the middle stage of Emperor Realm were not even ants in front of Lin Tian. At this time, what it cared about was the flesh shells of these two people. As long as Lin Tian destroyed the souls of these two people, the flesh shells of these two people would become its treasure. It could use the Saint refining treasure technique to refine them, and it could directly rush to the Emperor Realm. The two elders' expressions were indifferent, and the murderous light in their eyes was not concealed. When they looked at Lin Tian, it was as if they were looking at a corpse. Hum! Divine light intertwined. With a hum, a seal rushed out from one of them. It immediately emitted a very shocking aura of an eternal weapon, directly sealing the space in this place. Disappear. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.